I hope I don't hang up on him. You still there?
If it's on speaker, you should be good.
It can't be on speaker when it's off the hook.
Okay. Am I going to hang up on him if I put the thing back?
If it's on,
Hit speaker and then.
come on.
Okay. My other wife working for AT&T. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Military Tuesdays. I'm pretty sure that Mr. Spitz is not wearing a tie at the moment.
Justin didn't get the memo.
Hey, that's his cabinet. He can work that out. Okay. Thomas, would you like to lead us in the pledge?
Place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, colleagues, I'm going to take a moment to, we're going to pay our respects to Mr. Bill Dean, who was one of the members of the I-0 team, and we tragically lost him a little over a week ago. Bill Dean gave us our plan for safety. When Don Bill called him, it took him only seconds to commit to this district. He saw nothing more important than to give back. He was scheduled to be back here on the 15th to complete his mission with our district and our safety and security. The country lost one of the best and finest leaders of its generation, and we Beverly Hills Unified gained immensely from him. We are grateful to have had him have this quiet, professional, lead for us so great a gift. So I'd like to take a moment of silence for Mr. Bill Dean. Thank you, everyone. We have one card. Ms. Crosshauer, I have one card. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. I'll take this on. We need a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda, Mr. Marco.
Thank you, Vice President Hacker. Thank you, Board Member Walker Schumann. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries 3-0. Mr. Spitz is joining us by phone this evening. Mr. Spitz, can you hear us okay? Is he? Can you hear us?
Mr. Spitz?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure, can you hear everything going on in the meeting? Tristan?
Can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Let's see. Report of closed action. Dr. Briggy?
Yes, the board has voted 5-0 to approve the grievance with BHUSD. It's number 001. And the board has also voted 5-0 to settle grievance number 002 with BHUSD. And finally, the board has voted 4-1 to approve the settlement agreement for employee number DW3792591.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Briggy. I'd like to call on for public comment. Kathy, is it Cockian? Okay. Thank you, Kathy.
Forgive me, I'm very much under the weather today, but I was...
You could come up to the mic, please. Dustin, are you running the shot clock? Thank you. Try to figure it out. It's okay. Go
I
ahead.
am Kathy Hagokian. I'm the proud mother of Kyle Newman. And here to just express my gratitude to the board for everything. Sorry, I get emotional. Everything they have done for my son, especially Miss Churnis, I know personally, and Miss Walker. I am very grateful for stepping in, not giving up on my son, and allowing me to see him succeed as I always knew he can. So I'm very grateful and have nothing to complain about. I'm very excited for the middle school program. It is probably the best that I have seen. And I can say as a mom of a special needs son, I have researched and searched endless amount of hours for school that would be appropriate for my son. His needs are not academic, so it is very hard to find any program that can accommodate someone who is academically capable but has other needs that inhibit them from accessing that. So this is the best that I've seen, and I'm very excited to be a part of it and help in any way that I can. Thank you very much.
I think you just made our night. Thank you. Okay. You're very welcome. Accommodations and recognition. Oh, it's plaque time. And not the dental kind. Okay. So I don't mess this up like I usually get ahead of myself. I need a motion. See, Pam, I'm doing it right. Thank you. I need a motion and approval for Resolution 2018-2009-027.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Margo.
I'll second it.
Thank you very much, colleagues. I will read the resolution, because it has your name in it, so it should be read. Although I heard you were leaving early tonight, so maybe I'm having second thoughts about it. Oh, your parents couldn't stay?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Are Tom's going to fight for the seat?
Possibly.
All right.
I don't know. I want to hold
The WWE on Tuesday. Perfect. Okay. Resolution. See? I moved and seconded, but you didn't vote for it. I'm going to forget. I know, but I'm going to forget. But just, flag me after I'm done reading, okay? You'll be surprised what's going on up here. Whereas Sean Tooby, a senior at Beverly High School, served as student member of the Board of Education June 2018 to June 2019, and whereas Sean Tooby, elected by his high school peers, was the student representative for all students in the Beverly Hills Unified School District, and whereas Sean Tooby fulfilled his youth leadership role in a professional manner, diligently keeping informed on all issues, including reconfiguration, metro, construction, and school safety and security, and whereas Sean Tooby was a strong advocate for empowering Beverly Hills High School students and boldly supporting and encouraging student involvement in district decision-making, and whereas Sean Tooby was an intelligent, bright spokesperson for all students who provided knowledgeable comments and meaningful contributions to the board meetings, now, therefore, be it resolved that the Beverly Hills Unified School District Board of Education does hereby commend Sean Tooby for his contributions to the Board of Education as the student representative with this resolution presented on this 11th day of June, 2019. Colleagues, all in favor of the resolution? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
We got a gift for you. Take off to college. So.
Should I stand up? Should I come over here?
You could stand up. I didn't wear a tie, but you could stand up.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
That was for you. Enjoy. Best of luck. I think we all said it in the card, so it's been a pleasure having you.
Thank you all. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, Sean, it was about a year ago, and when we first met, and some advice that I gave you was to to understand that this is the type of position that the more you put in, the more you get out. And you really put in the work. I want to thank you on behalf of the entire cabinet, the thousands of hours that you put in, and what sets you apart from other student board members that I've had in my career is the fact that you truly wanted to understand the information. Everything from Metro to the oil well to construction to reconfiguration, to finance, and you made yourself available, and I'm not sure how you did with your schedule, but we had 100 meetings, and the questions that you asked were really good ones, and I really appreciate the fact that it's not easy to sit up here, and even years later, 10 years for me, it's hard because the issues that we have to tackle are tough. And so I know that you were sitting up here through a pretty tough time when we were talking about teacher negotiations, and that you were very involved in what was happening, and it was your teachers. So I know it's not easy to sit there. And so we just want to thank you for the time that you put in, the understanding, and that you always were consistent in bringing it back around to students, and you never, ever let us down when we were ready to move on to something else. You were always able to redirect us to make sure that we have incorporated the student voice. So on behalf of the cabinet, we have a little gift for you, and so you can open it. I'll bring it to you. So it's not to be, it's Toomy, but it's close. So I'll let you open it, and there's something inside that as well. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Did not expect this at all.
I was going to let him put something in it.
Way to go on size. Ooh, that is awesome. Thank you so much.
So there's something inside.
Inside?
Doesn't stop there. It's a salad shoe.
Something that Mr. Marvel will remember from his childhood is in there.
The Pac-Man watch?
Too many pockets to check all of it. Oh no, this is too sweet.
Little retro Polaroid camera. Hey, they're coming back.
On film.
Thank you so much.
So on behalf of the cabinet, thank you, Sean.
Put this now.
Collins, do you have anything you want to add for Mr. Toomy? Any words of encouragement? It's rough out there, but we have a good backpack.
No, would you like to share anything?
Are you asking me if I'd like to say anything with regard to Sean?
Yes.
Yes. Sean, I want you to know that you've represented your fellow students with distinction. You've met every responsibility. You've been an outstanding student board member. And as far as I'm concerned, I have every confidence that you will accomplish everything you set out to do in life. I'm very, very proud of you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Spitz.
I concur. I think that you've done an amazing job. Even before I was installed on this board, we spent time talking about what was important to the student body, what issues you felt needed to be heard, and you've been consistent the entire time that I've known you, and through the election and now being on the board. So you've been a constant advocate for the student body, which is a remarkable position to hold. You have a great ability to evaluate and share very astute observations, and I'm positive that your future is very bright. So congratulations, we're very proud of you.
Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, Sean, I have to warn your successor, they have big shoes to fill. That's number one. Number two, this is my first time on the board, and to have someone so capable sitting in the student's chair was a real pleasure for me, and you really set the goal and real high for anybody that follows, because you did a fantastic job. I loved hearing your reports every week, and they were wonderful. And I'm going to miss you a lot, and I'm just going to call you one word. You're a mensch.
Thank you so much.
So Sean, it was really nice getting to know you these last 2 years. I think that with your involvement at DECA and just a little bit of overlap as a parent, I just think that you've been an amazing leader in DECA and also on this board. And as Mel said, I think you should be very proud. I think you represented your student in school community very, very well on this board. And everything you do it with a lot of integrity and a lot of leadership, and always thinking what's the best for everyone. And so I think that you're going to go far, and you should be so proud of yourself, and I'm sure your parents are as well, as this entire board is. Thank you for being here, and we're going to miss you.
Sean, we have experienced a different kind of high school for a lot of kids. One that's been, I think, under construction since you got here, pretty much, or at least the auditorium was closed. So I give my hats off to any student in the district that's actually living through construction. That's something that is powerful enough to break up marriages. So any students that actually can do it, it shows the resilience, and you've shown it as well as your peers have as well, all over the district. And my question is, where do you get your suits? Because mine are schlampy looking, and I'm kind of thinking of bumping up to the fit of,
I could email some links over to you.
It's secret, I get it.
There's some sources. I don't know if I should put it on the public record. It's
all right.
In an inner circle.
Am I going to an alley again? Okay. Anyway, Sean, best of luck. Thank you very much for your service to both the district and the community and the state that you do. And with that, we'll transition and introduce the new student board member who is with us tonight. And if I mispronounce your name, you can tell me and call me out on it. But Thomas Recupero, is that correct? Thank you very much. Is here. Thomas did get the No Tie Tuesday memo, so I appreciate that. Not being upstaged by James Bond over here. Thank you very much. And Thomas, we look forward to, I guess, seating you. Could be as early as Thursday if you show up. So we do have an open vote on the budget on Thursday. So that's my understanding. And with that, we will move on to our staff presentations, which could just mean one thing, a heavy Schoology packet. There you go. And hi, Ryan.
Congratulations. Thank you all for
Shout out to you, Ryan. Thanks for everything you shared.
I just want to say thank you to all of you. I'm loud enough. Everyone's going to hear me. You guys have done...
We're not, but keep talking like they are.
You guys have done an incredible job. My high school wouldn't have been the same without you guys. So keep up the good work. I know students in the future are in good hands. Thank you guys.
Yeah, your high school wasn't actually open without us. But it's all for the better good. Come back and check it out. You're going to be thrilled.
Good luck in Texas.
I'm pushing for the indoor water park, but I don't think I have 3.
You should come out to Texas and visit me.
Or not, but thanks for the invitation.
Have a good one, guys.
Bye.
Oh, goodness.
Okay.
It's a very tough act to follow. To Mr. Margot.
Are you kidding? Schoology is fantastic.
Thank you.
I cower.
To Board President Margot's point, Dr. Breggy very kindly and gently but clearly shared with me, sometimes my presentations can be exhaustive, so I did tailor it down just a little bit. I could have done more, but I edited myself down, as they say, on Project Runway. So the purpose tonight is just to update you on where we are with Schoology. I don't anticipate taking more than 10 minutes. The questions may take longer than my actual presentation. So, quick overview of what I'm doing, quick project status update, a reminder of the timeline, where we are with professional development and support, and the feedback from focus groups of the survey we conducted. So,
The packet is in front of the board members and, of course, available online. So you might remember from April 23rd, we shared a project update by what we call color coding. And so you'll see in the first line, we were yellow with the gradebook passback issues in April. We've now moved to green. We've done testing with several teachers, about 12, and the testing went extremely well. And from that testing, there were no further issues. The issues that we had previous to that have been resolved. Now, I want to be very transparent and clear. When we roll out to every teacher in the district, it is likely that something will happen. It's just the nature of the beast. But the challenges that presented themselves during the pilot have been resolved with assistance from Aries and Schoology and our teachers. PD was green when I shared it with you in April. That continues to be green and on track with a lot of planning happening this summer. I'll talk more about that in a little bit. Same for parent training. We're on target. Most of our parent training, while we will have some in person, will be done remotely so the parents can check in with us via Zoom, so they can join our training for Schoology, our parent training for Schoology from their homes if they so desire. So they don't have to come on site if that's an inconvenience. And lastly, this was a big one. It was read, the notion of transitioning the assessments that some teachers have in Juno, which is part of Jupiter, to Schoology. That was an area of extreme concern for us because we have more than a few high school teachers who have assessments in Juno hundreds, that we were worried we're not going to transition to Schoology easily. Eddie DeGia, who's a member of our team, is to be publicly commended. He used his computer science degree to write a code that is saving teachers literally hundreds of hours to do this. The reason it's yellow, I cannot express to you how incredible it is that Eddie came up with this solution. He tested it, one of our TOSAs tested it, Jesse Braun, high school TOSA. We tested it with Minna Kim, who has the most pods today in a session. It went well with some bookmark needs that we still need to address. That's why I don't feel comfortable taking it to a green yet, but we've experienced extreme progress with this that frankly I was worried about this one more than anything else. So we will continue to work with Minna and another couple of high school teachers to ensure that we get to green, certainly within the next 6 weeks before school starts. So this is just a reminder of the calendar. Nothing's changed on this, the timeline. So just wanted to include it as a reminder of where we are in our implementation. Professional development. So we have voluntary summer PD this summer. One session is tomorrow. Mrs. Marcus shared that she's going to stop by it, and we welcome all and any board members to stop by if you're so interested. So while the teachers have a choice of what they take during our professional development, Schoology has been the one that they've indicated they want to focus on. So we have other opportunities for them with instructional tech PD, but it's been pretty clear that they want to move forward with that, and we feel good about the offerings we have for them around that. That said, mandatory professional development for all teachers will take place in the fall. Work with Mr. Seaman to ensure that we've had time on both the all the level calendars, elementary, middle, and high school. Had a conversation with Mr. Mead last week. He's very passionate about making sure that the Schoology PD is aligned to the instructional program and the content at the high school. So we intend to do that at all levels. And that scope and sequence will be worked out this summer, and I look forward to sharing that with you in late July, early August. The number of PD days for middle school and high school will be identified later this summer in collaboration with Mr. Seaman, but we already know 5 days with Hawthorne and Horseman in the fall, and that's a good number. We feel good about that. And then, as always, the coaching support is, in my opinion, and based on research, the most critical piece to the PD. Okay, so let's get to probably the most interesting part of the presentation. So as everyone hopefully knows if they saw the attachment to the board agenda, we did send out a survey to the students of teachers who use Schoology with the most fidelity during the pilot. The pilot was really intended or designed to get feedback from teachers about how this was rolling out. So just to share some of the parameters / constraints with you, it was never intended that our teachers use the full implement of Schoology during the pilot. It wasn't designed for that. It was designed to allow them to experience it and give us feedback so that we could tailor the actual rollout, and they did that. So there are teachers who used it, in a much more integrated way in their classrooms, and there were teachers who used it more in a teacher way to get to know it. So does that make sense? Okay, so there were in other words, there were no requirements for the teachers and how they use Schoology. That was unfair to them at that point. We just wanted to make sure they experienced it and gave us feedback. The grade levels represented in the responses are 4th through 8th. I know one of the questions I received was, were there any high school students included in this survey? In the survey, the results that you're looking at now, the answer is no, because the one high school teacher who had the most robust usage conducted her own survey, and I'll talk about that a little later. But for this survey, the data that you're looking at now in the next few slides, they were 4th through 8th graders. And then lastly, what was the criteria for respondent selection? Teacher participation in Schoology, the beta cohort, the most robust. And the reason we did that, if a teacher did not use Schoology really with their students as much, the results would have been more skewed. So here we are. I don't want to read the slides to you necessarily. If I may do a gestalt of how we interpreted it, and if there are questions, of course, I'll come back. So generally, you'll see that approximately, if you go through the slides, approximately a quarter to a third, I mean, this one is 40% of students reported that they felt the system needed improvement. Anywhere from like 45 to 60, 65% of responses rated it as excellent or satisfactory, which was a little higher than I expected it to be, considering the change management aspect of this. Communication tools, you'll see how that breaks down again. You know, we have significant numbers of students reporting that it needs improvement. We do have a good chunk of students reporting that it's excellent or satisfactory. Moving on. Again, same kind of ratios. They break down similarly through all the questions. Now, where I want to pause is that, and I'm going to get to this in the next slide, that we spent a lot of time thinking about change management as it related to our teachers and how they were acclimating to Schoology. One of the lessons learned from this survey and the data it yielded, what I shared with you today was a portion of the data. There was there's more, but I was trying to keep the presentation tight, but the trend is consistent. About a quarter to a third of students report needs improvement. The students also noted comments, and the comments included, I like Schoology, it's great. Many of the comments included, I prefer Jupiter. I mean, I'm just going to tell you straight out. I mean, there was one comment, I'm paraphrasing, but it's pretty spot on. I hate Jupiter, but I hate Schoology more. So that was not typical, but it was part of the responses. Now, the reason I put this up here is that what we reflected on after looking at the student data, including the high school data, which was a separate survey but with similar questions, is that we did not take our students through this change management cycle the way we did our teachers. So we did an awareness campaign with our teachers. We tried to drive desire in them to use it, but there was no official student introduction to Schoology for the beta students. We kind of relied on the teachers to do that, but in hindsight, it would have been more effective to maybe give the teachers a module or a capsule, so to speak, of, like a slide deck they could take their students through to acclimate them to it. So again, in hindsight, having our teachers learn a new system while trying to teach their students a new system, we could have done a better job equipping our teachers to acclimate the students to the new system. We looked at the comments and the data results. They almost all fall in that category, a lack of ease with the system. So that was a huge lesson, gigantic lesson. So some of the things that we learned from the data include, and I don't want to read it to you, but they go to onboarding students and parents with intention before we start the rollout, and not leaving it to the burden, so to speak, to our teachers to do that. That we're much more deliberate about making sure that our students and our parents have their own differentiated onboarding or boot camp. I'll think of a better term than that. And then the time allowance necessary for our stakeholders to acclimate to it. So I was sharing with a group of stakeholders earlier that when we first roll out, a lot of this has to do with administrator expectations and how we hold our colleagues, our teacher colleagues accountable. But we also have to think about the fact that different content areas and different grades are going to use Schoology differently. So it's important that we differentiate and stagger the rollout based on the needs of the teacher. So a second grade teacher is not going to use Schoology, obviously, the same way an 11th grade chemistry teacher is going to use it. So I mentioned that to say that, you know, an 11th grade chemistry teacher or science teacher is going to use it more robustly. There are more components of it that they can use. So we don't expect them to use all of them at once. It's impossible. What we expect is that each teacher take accountability for implementing the system, that they do it with fidelity and as robustly as they can, and that they grow in it based on the timeline established by the school community. So I wanted to focus on the survey results today because that was something that I know Board Member Walker Schumann brought up, and all the board members seemed very interested in that information. So that's where I left it. So I wanted to pause now for any questions you may have about what I shared with you today.
Mr. Toomy?
First of all, thank you. This was awesome. I love all these reports and how they all mimic each other to show like the progress of how everything is going.
Thank you.
I especially love the data about the student responses.
Yes.
That was very insightful. So just an overall great presentation. The only thing I have to add, I guess I want to ask is, are there any other major things we have to go over in the next few months in order to make sure the rollout is going to be as perfect as possible?
It's a great question. So even though we've moved from red to yellow with the pod piece, especially for high school, our English teachers seem to have the most pods. So even though we've made tremendous progress, I won't feel comfortable until we're in green, because it's such a thing. Like, your teachers have spent so much time putting these assessments together that if they don't have access to them in Schoology, it's really going to impact them. So the other issues have largely been worked out. Again, there are going to be bumps. Whenever you roll anything like this out, it's not realistic to think that there are not going to be some bumps along the way. It's just how this kind of change goes. But that one line, the pods thing, that's what I'm most concerned about.
Okay.
I'll feel much better when we're in the green on that.
Awesome. Thank you.
And may I add to that, Mr. Tooby?
Sure.
In addition to that, just the professional development. So because each teacher is different, we have to create a baseline for all teachers with this. But then once we've done that, making sure that we differentiate by grade level, department level, all of that, and then coming back to provide coaching to support them, and then lastly, creating a space and time for our site administrators to give them feedback on it. And I don't want to use the word accountable because it sounds like Big Brother is watching them implement this, but that it is expected that as a district we use this. And that part I must leave to the site administrators. So I have to work with them to support them in making sure they support their teachers in actually using it.
Okay, sounds great.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
You're up. Do you have any questions for?
Yes, I do on Schoology. And I'm going to apologize first. I couldn't hear everything that was said. If I've missed something, if what I'm asking or my comments are redundant, I apologize. But let me start this way. In the questions and answers from the superintendent with regard to this Schoology report, a question was asked, and not by me, by the way, but it's an important question. How many students were polled? The answer, staff's answer was, quote, the survey was administered to students who had the most regular use of Schoology. That answer is not acceptable. That answer is evasive. And my concern is that the number of students who were polled must be known in order to properly evaluate the result of the poll. For example, of those who did respond, 149, one-third to 40% of them rated Schoology needing improvement in every category.
Yes.
Now, I don't know how many were polled, but let me make assuming there were 300 polled and half responded, then 2/3 of the students who were polled rated Schoology as needing improvement, or they did not respond at all. And so, that doesn't seem like a solid basis for installing the system in August. Yet, from what I saw of this report, staff's conclusion from the poll is that students need a, quote, Schoology Bootcamp, unquote. Yet, from what I see here, teachers may volunteer to launch Schoology and Aries gradebook this coming August. So when are the students going to get Bootcamp before it? And I guess what I want to ask is this. What impact will Schoology have on the learning experience of those students who can't navigate it adequately? What will be the impact on their learning experience? That's my question.
Okay, so there are about 4 or 5 questions in there, so I'm going to try, if I forget
And
something.
I really can't hear.
Okay, is this better, Mr. Spitz? That's probably a no, huh? Should I go over there? I can speak loud enough for everyone else to hear if I...
Maybe he'll hear better from...
So walk over there?
Sitting over here.
Okay.
Mine? 'Cause-
His microphone's not working?
No, it is. It just, he has to hear it through the telephone.
We have to hear it.
But I don't think he's here.
I'm pretty agile. Hi, Mr. Spitz, it's Bernadette. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine now. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. So I apologize if it came across as evasive. So the survey was voluntary. So my understanding, mostly middle school respondents on the survey, so the teachers who, I'm not going to give their name just out of fairness. I didn't ask their permission to give their names. So they're mostly middle school teachers, even though we did have a teacher from Horseman have her students respond, a 4th grade teacher. So my understanding is that we have about a 70 to 80% response rate. I'll get a more precise number for the board members later. We still do feel as if the numbers are representative because we also took the feedback from our teachers and our students, our anecdotal feedback, kind of our verbal feedback. So by and large, we have a good chunk, as you said, and I said at the mic, we do have about 33% or so of students who aren't completely happy. They find it, clunky or, challenging to navigate. One of the things I was sharing at the mic that you may not have heard is that a lot of this we attribute to, based on their comments, is change management. It's a new system. They're very used to Jupyter. And so, of course, it would be easy for them to navigate that because they've spent the last 4 to 6 years using it. So that's why we feel the results are representative, because it's not as if the results are completely positive. There are some more than a few negative responses in it. So our charge is to take those negative responses and mitigate them. Like what is causing our students to feel this way? And we strongly feel it's that they did not have the introduction, or lack of a better expression, boot camp experience to acclimate them to Schoology before they started. So your question about why would we start in August if this percentage of students feel a certain level of discomfort with it? Because whether we did it in August or January, that number is still going to stand if we don't do something about it. And to go with that answer, the students aren't being pushed into the deep end of the pool with Schoology. The teachers are starting in a graduated, differentiated way, so they're not having to go all in when they first start using Schoology. There'll be a transitional period, so to speak. And the reason we feel that going in August with teachers who volunteer for it is important is because we are using the feedback, the learnings from the pilot to improve the voluntary launch in August. And so one of the improvements would be the boot camp for students to support them in being more ready for it. So that's why we feel comfortable proceeding. There's never a great time to make this kind of transition. I think what's important is that we did the pilot and learned what the issues were with our students and teachers, and for that matter, before we implemented district-wide. And then your other question was around what is the instructional benefit of Schoology? Is that accurate? Am I
No, what impact on students' learning experiences who can't navigate it properly? What will be the impact on their learning experience?
So that's a great question. In a brief answer, it will be minimal because the teachers will graduate or differentiate the rollout of it so that that doesn't happen. If our students are having that challenging of a time with it, which has not been experienced in other districts, it was all about change management. They just needed to be acclimated to the system. So if a teacher is seeing that his or her students are having that big of a problem with it, then we'll pull back a little bit. So that there should not be that kind of impact on their learning. It's not set up for that. The teacher is still in charge of the instructional program.
When you mentioned that the results of the polling told staff that students need a Schoology Bootcamp.
Or introduction.
Yet in some classes you're going to put it into practice in August. No time for any student boot camp.
Oh, I see what it's, okay, I understand. I'm sorry. So we're not going to implement it until the students go through the boot camp. Like, there's no urgency in starting Schoology the first week of school. August is just our launch date, but we won't start the implementation of Schoology in the integration of it into the instructional program until our students have had a chance to go through the boot camp. And that could be the first week of school for one teacher. It could be the second week of school for another teacher. They don't have to start day one with Schoology. They could start mid-September and it would be fine.
And, okay, and lastly, with regard to the number polled, did you say that the responses were about 70% or 80, or what did you say?
Based on our feedback from the teachers, I'll get a more precise percentage, and I'll email that to you all in our weekly communication to you.
Yeah, I would like to know that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Did I hit all of your questions?
Yeah, no, that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Spitz. Board Member Walker-Schumann.
So, first, I just want to make sure that
I'm sorry.
we're on.
Thank you.
Oh, say that. Oh, so he can hear me? Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. Don't worry about it.
That's
It's like 5 minutes.
yeah.
Jupiter is sunsetting, correct?
Yes.
But, so we do not have a contract beyond December that would enable anybody to use it beyond, so we have to move on to something else.
We do, yes, but we'll keep a legacy access to it so that teachers can access documents and all that kind of stuff that they created in Juno.
Okay. I can tell you, as I've said before, my daughter has been using this. She was in 8th grade for one class, so that's the only experience I've had in using it. If you go in and look at it now, you can't see any of her grades, any of the work, any of the anything. I don't know if that's a temporary situation or is that a temporary?
Because she graduated, or?
Well, no, because my older son, who's at the high school, I can still look back and see things.
Since school ended.
Yeah, it's only since school ended that it's not available, but in Jupiter, all of their work is available all the time. Going back historically.
So it will be going forward. Schoology will not be our grade book of record. Can everyone hear me? Okay, Aries will be. So the two will work in concert together. So our parents and our students will be able to see their grades in Aries in pretty much real time. So the two systems talk to each other. So the Aries will more take the place of Jupiter when it comes to grades than Schoology will.
But at the end of a semester or a year, the student would be able to go back and look at their grades, because I'm looking at it now, I know what she got in English, but I can't see it in the app or on the website.
Because we're transitioning and converting to the full implementation.
That will be there.
Yes,
Okay.
it will be there, but more in Aries than Schoology. But you'll be able to see the assessment, whatever was in Schoology, you'll be able to see.
Okay.
Yes.
Is there anything that's offered right now for students that resembles a boot camp for Jupiter, for who have never used that program before?
Used
like
Jupiter?
incoming 6th graders?
Not to my knowledge, Mr. Seaman, would you know that better than I would?
I'm sorry?
Nope.
Has there been anything historically like a boot camp to teach the students how to use Jupiter?
The classroom teacher has always taught the student how to utilize Jupiter.
Right.
This too, shouldn't I? The classroom teacher has always been in charge of delivering instruction and teaching the student how to utilize Jupiter. So never in the past have we, in the past 2 years that I've been here, a new student moves into campus, we flag the student as a new student, and those teachers teach them how to navigate Jupyter. So it'll be a very similar, once the teachers can own Schoology, then they're going to also be able to assist the students in delivering and understanding the instruction and navigating the system as well.
May I add to that, Mr. Seaman, a little bit tangentially? So this is not a criticism of Jupyter. It's any time you change from one major platform to another. But my understanding is, long before any of us were where we are right now, when the high school and certainly the K-8s transitioned to Jupyter, there was this same kind of, oh my gosh, this is a new system, this is challenging, where did this come from, who made this decision? So we're going through something, it's cyclical, it's almost like educational Darwinism, and I hope I survive.
So that was actually the reason for my last question. I have 4 kids who have gone through, not using anything online for a grade book to all of a sudden in 6th grade beginning to use this.
Yes.
And I don't recall any formal, training, this is how it's used, this is how you access it.
Right.
Yet all of them have managed to figure it out and utilize it, and it's, something that, just like using any kind of new technology, that they've really become, adept with. So I think that there's going to be some growing pains. I think it's helpful that the teachers have a little more exposure before the kids do, but I'm still optimistic. I do want to know some of the things that we had talked about before in terms of the way the thing is laid out in Schoology, and will you be able to see all the grades next to each class as it's listed? Like, are those changes that will be able to be made? Or are we hitting a brick wall with things like that, where we're like, oh, well, that's just the way it is, and now we have to accept it?
So we haven't hit a brick wall yet. I've sent your feedback to Schoology, and so they're supposed to get back to me in, I think, July, and let me know. They're trying to really, just the name of our district has caused a lot of efforts.
Motivation?
Yes. In fact, the solutions to some of these things that I share with you are going to tremendously help other districts, the districts that use Aries, for example. And prior to us, they had not resolved that issue.
Okay. That's all I got. Thank you.
Charge them.
I mean,
Okay, first of all, when Mel spoke and asked his questions, he took about everything that I had written down originally as part of my questions on it. We met yesterday, and I got a great deal of information about Schoology and so on. Again, not to iterate what Mel said, but I looked at this like it was the glass is half empty when I said 77 to 80% of your students who were polled said that it was unsatisfactory or was satisfactory and needs to improve. And there was a very small group that thought it was really pretty good.
Right.
And on all 5 categories that you used, 3 of them were in the 77 to 80%, and 2 of them were in the 64 to 66%. And I questioned that as being something that would be considered satisfactory. And I said, how do you intend to address this? And you mentioned the boot camp, which made me feel very comfortable. And you also said that now you know what needs to be taught in the boot camp so the kids can comfortably manipulate through Schoology and that connection with Aries and so on. If a teacher, this is one question, if a teacher decides to start Schoology and the kids have not had boot camp yet, it's going to be somewhat of a problem, I would imagine, and there should be a way for you to address that situation. Again, this survey was only done with kids who had experienced it and witnessed it, and from that standpoint, I thought the category of needs to improve and just satisfactory was pretty low, although you speak very highly of this. I hope that it will be successful and that when it rolls out January 1st, so everybody be ready to go. And I wish you good luck on that.
Thank you, Mrs. Marcus. I do, and thank you for framing it that you saw satisfactory as part of the half empty. And maybe because of my nature, I saw that as part of the more of the half full, because we had heard so much concern from the students about it. I expected more needs improvement, to be honest. To your point, I too am hoping, praying, working to make sure that this goes extremely well. What gives me a lot of encouragement and hope, if I may say, is that it has in other districts with great success. I will continue to reiterate, it is always bumpy because it's a new system. And I shared, I forgot who I was speaking with. Maybe it was you, Mrs. Marcus. I said that comparing Schoology and Jupiter is like comparing oranges and trucks, because they're not intended for the same thing. So if there's going to be a sense of loss. We all know that whenever a change comes, even if it's a positive change and people know it's a positive change, there's a sense of loss in what you're comfortable with. So there are going to be people who complain. I guarantee you're going to get emails and calls as board members of people complaining about Schoology in the fall. And I'm ready for that. My thing to my team is always, what are we doing to solve this challenge that our teachers are experiencing? And it's why I felt so strongly about the pilot. Can you imagine if we just rolled this out without doing a pilot?
No, I can't.
So that was the purpose of it, to reveal these challenges or even problems, if you want to say it like that. And I will always keep you all fully abreast of what those are. I'm not going, as I think you know me by now, I'm not going to hide one single thing.
Vice President Harker.
Thank you, Mr. Marco. So just to reiterate a little bit of what my colleagues have touched on, let's talk about the pilot. You talked about the pilot. What really concerns me, one of the questions that I asked, just looking at the survey results, is that only less than 5% of our student population was polled, and I understand that those numbers were taken from classes where teachers were really engaged in using Schoology, right?
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so what really concerns me in asking the question was that no one from Hawthorne was part of the survey.
Right. That's correct.
And the high school. Because the high school is very different from, how students, the way students use Jupyter grades right now at the high school is I think they go on there multiple times because they have all the communication from teachers, and I've said this in the past. So how are you going to get around the pilot part to incorporate and to include the high school students and also a whole school, an entire school community like Hawthorne?
Right.
Have you thought about how you're going to do that between now and January? Is that correct?
Yes.
And then my second question is Aries. How comfortable are students along with Aries in use?
So, I can't touch that. So the survey that the teacher at the high school, I'm going to ask her permission to share that with you all in our weekly update, so you can see what her students responded. And she did have the highest usage with her students in the pilot, as any teacher at the high school who was in beta group. So to your question, Ms. Hacker, the whole survey thing, we're going to do that again in the fall, probably early mid-October, after the students have had more experience with it, and after boot camp. To get more feedback from our students. Additionally, we found that the survey, as with any quantitative data, it only made you want to ask more questions. So even though we have this data from the kids, like, what makes you say it needs improvement?
Right, but I'm talking about the children who haven't had.
Oh, who haven't?
The ones like the high school, there was zero participation from many students at the high school who took the survey because they have not been exposed to Schoology in the way that the classes that you did choose to participate in this survey were. So how are we, as a board member, I'm asking, what transition is the high school community to expect? And the same question goes for Hawthorne, because it appears that no teachers there are also using or making use of Schoology the way Horseman is in Beverly Vista, which is where you took your target group, right?
Yes.
To expose this survey.
So the high school in Hawthorne used it more, if this makes sense, as teachers. They didn't roll it out as much with their students. With the exception of the one teacher we have who conducted her own survey, which is the day. I'm going to ask her permission. I'm pretty sure she's going to say yes. So are you asking how are we going to get feedback from those students who did not use it to make sure we tailor it?
So January comes around, I'm a high school student. Right. I've never been exposed, perhaps. So what am I to expect? And Jupyter goes away.
So regardless, we're going to do the boot camp for all students, whether their teachers volunteer into it or not. If their teachers volunteer into it, we'll do it earlier, like August, September. But by the end of the semester, all students who are, say third, fourth grade and up will go through the boot camp. And the boot camps will be differentiated by level. So the elementary boot camp will look differently from, say, the high school boot camp. So all students will go through the boot camp before they start Schoology.
Look, I know you have to start somewhere, and you've already taken off, so we're not going back into the box,
Yeah.
We're out. But here's I guess, if I'm a student from the high school, and again, I only know this because I'm a parent, and I see how much the students depend on Jupyter to look at their grades, to look at their assignments, if anything changes in the assignment as far as instructions, I mean, it's pretty intense.
Yes.
It's very intense.
And important.
And so if that goes away and the student doesn't know, or the teacher doesn't know how to use Schoology, what then? I mean, what is the direction for the student when they go home as far as here's the continuity for disclosure on your grades, on assignments, on the history of your grades? I mean, it's pretty terrifying. I think if I'm a student and I don't know how to use it.
It is terrifying. Dustin, Mr. C.
Can I just jump in here real quick? Because I think the clarification for the professional development has to be part of this conversation. And so an example at the high school for quarter one, Mr. Mead and I have already created where said the science department will work together collaboratively to create a common assessment that will be implemented in the Schoology to deliver to all the science students at the same time. So, and that's just within quarter one. And then from there, that way then the science teachers can come back to an early release Thursday to be able to figure out how is it beneficial, what bumps and bruises we're delivering a chemistry or a physics assessment, because there are equations within that, and it's part of the reason why Schoology was such a great pick, is because you can do algebraic chemistry and physics equations inside, where Jupyter, it was difficult at first.
Yeah.
Same thing with Juno. And so that is one of the directives that is coming from the administration, is that we're going to utilize a lot of our teacher collaboration time, both at the middle school and the high school, and even the elementaries, to be able to create common assessments and be able to deliver them within the first semester, to be able to train the students and train themselves and build together and collaborate to make sure that by the time second semester comes along, and we are then fully implemented, the students have had multiple access points to try it out, to learn how to utilize it.
Okay, well, I would suggest, I really appreciate that answer, Mr. Seaman. I think that what I would really suggest is that once all this has taken place, what Dustin has just introduced to us, I think that it is important for you to go back and have a survey as well. And it can't just be the students who are the best users. It has to be really comprehensive so that we can really understand if really that January start date is really still a true deadline.
That's very fair.
I think, because we don't want, you could do all you want, and maybe in the process we find out that we need 3 more months to really launch, so that we don't go into a panic mode and parents, it's really, do you use Jupyter? Are you exposed to it in the way that parents are?
No.
Okay. Because I will tell you, for the middle school, I don't really think it was, maybe some teachers did. I would say vaguely I remember teachers depositing some of the assignments to Jupyter, but it just seems like, and the students are here from the high school, they can tell you, they constantly are on their phone checking messages, communicating back and forth. So, if that goes away, I think it would be not a good thing.
I 100% agree, and part of, go ahead, Dust, I can see you're just.
Sorry. But I agree. Is exactly one of our primary focuses going into next year is just the way that we're providing student feedback, right? And that's also kind of that accountability piece is, are we providing students feedback prior to assessment? So formative feedback prior to a summative assessment. And part of that is that utilizing Schoology as the tool to be able to give all students feedback at a timely manner. And so that's creating those common assessments in those grade levels, and this will be the tool that will assist us in doing that. And so that's one of the things that you'll consistently hear ed services, student services, and the building principals all communicating about with our professional development plans, is how are we providing students feedback prior to assessment to make sure that they're prepared and ready, but then how do you as parents have access to that feedback to support your student? How do we become more transparent in the educational process? And that's what we hope to do opening up Schoology.
And Mrs. Hacker, I cannot overemphasize the importance of your points and all the board members' points, but I'm terrified, but in a different way than you are as a parent. It's more, we have this big change coming, and we need it to go as smoothly as possible, and I'm responsible for that. So please know, one of the cabinet made a decision with the leadership team that the two foci for fall semester are Schoology and PBIS for the very reason you're talking about. There are literally 10 other things that I would like to be doing around technology. We cannot do those things until Schoology is well in place. And so for us, it's Schoology and our work with privacy and security. And I mean, Brian is here, but our partnership with iZero has been phenomenal that Mr. Blake has facilitated, like what we're doing with that. Those are our two things, Schoology and that. So your points are so well taken, and I can't tell you how much time we spend as a team talking about them.
And so in the event that we need to prolong the training period that Dustin just spoke about, after you would do an assessment, hopefully you incorporate a survey.
Yes.
Would you then, what program would we default to? Would it be Jupiter? Because I just heard Mrs. Walker-Schumann just ask, and you said that it's basically
we can always
sunsetting.
Keep it up. We can always go to Jupiter and keep it up. We
can? Okay, so we have that recourse. Okay, great.
And so, kind of connected to what you were saying, we wouldn't necessarily go to another LMS because our teachers selected by far and away.
I'm not suggesting that. I'm just saying.
No, I'm not suggesting going and looking for another LMS or investing in that. I'm just saying if we need more time to buy, could we go and make use of Jupiter in the interim? Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, colleagues. I'll keep my comments brief. I did notice that you're doing voluntary professional development over the summer that we're compensating teachers for, but we're doing professional development for everybody else come August.
Yes. Including them, really. They're included.
So I don't know if we are overdoing it with the professional development dollars on this one, because they're all going to get trained after August anyway. I just wanted to make that point. I also think this is going to be something like, if you build it, they will come. Kids will, if the grades are going to be somewhere on there, kids will learn to teach themselves how to use it very quickly. What I wanted to request is, can the board have a boot camp in this?
Yes.
Because I think at least 3 of us are parents moving forward that are going to need to know this anyway. And since we're probably going to be fielding some communications from some very productive community members about this, I would like to know what we're talking about down to the specifics.
Mr. Margo would like to train the trainers, right? The parents?
Yes, I would like to train everybody.
The second you and Dr. Breggy let us know when you want that, we're super hungry to do that with you all. And to your first point, Mr. Margo, we thought about that very thing. Okay, there's mandatory PD in the fall, but we know there were teachers who wanted to start in August, and the reason we went ahead and did it is because we heard from our teachers that they wanted it this summer. Some of them are anxious.
So are those teachers, and great, and kudos to them, are they going, the ones that go to the PD, do they plan on starting it in the fall? Is that the goal?
Yes, many of them anticipate that. We'll see how they feel after they go through summer.
Okay, fair enough. Okay. Any other comments? Terrific. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Bernadette, for the
Better
update.
time today?
Better, I mean, listen. Listen, we don't have to talk about the other stuff. Okay, we're going to move right to 2 public hearings, and we're going to shift a couple of things around on the agenda. So first, we have a public hearing on the draft LCAP, the Local Accountability Control Plan. The public hearing on the draft Local Accountability Control Plan is now open at 6:13 p.m. Beginning July 1st, 2013, the state of California changed the funding formula for public education and requires school districts to develop a local control accountability plan. The LCAP is a plan that aligns the district's educational goals with financial resources. Pursuant to Education Code Section 52060-52077, the governing board of each school district shall adopt a local control accountability plan using a template adopted by the State Board on or before July 1st, 2019. The LCAP shall be adopted with the district's annual budget. The LCAP is effective for a period of 3 years, updated on or before July 1st of each year. We now invite members of the audience to address the Board of Education on the proposed draft LCAP. The Board of Education has heard your comments, and we thank you very much for your input. The public hearing is now closed at 6:14 p.m. Okay. No, we don't vote today. It's a public hearing. Okay, now we're going to do the public hearing for the 2019-2020 budget. The public hearing regarding the 2019-2020 budget is now open at 6:15 p.m. Pursuant to Education Code Sections 42127, 42126, and 42103, the 2019-2020 budget has been prepared, made available to the public for review, and publicly advertised as required. We now invite members of the audience to address the Board of Education on the 2019-2020 budget.
I actually had a question.
This is for members of the audience.
Can I go over there then, or what? It's a question.
That's never really happened before, but
It's just a question.
Go ahead.
Just for clarification.
Go ahead.
So on the budget, I know that we have, it was proposed that we have an increase in cafeteria personnel to support the services for cafeteria for the next school year. And I had requested some information regarding, what our meals are, how many meals are we actually serving per day, per campus. And so it doesn't seem, the data came back today and I was reviewing it on my way over here, and it doesn't seem like the information is really substantial to really invest what has been asked and what is represented in our budget. So in thinking of a way that we can maybe meet the needs of our hopefully growing cafeteria demands in the future and also investing intelligently, I was going to suggest if we could possibly, Dr. Brady, think about doing this on a quarterly basis, just to test to see if we have an increase in meals, because I'm assuming that we're going to improve our quality on our menu with this type of an investment. But rather than doing a full year investment, could we come back at the end of next quarter or when we adopt our first interim budget and really see if we've gotten the investment, if we've seen the return that we wanted to see. And if not, it would give us an opportunity to talk about it and tweak it a little bit. So I'd like to propose the increase for a quarterly basis in the area of cafeteria. Is that something that I'm just kind of wondering if anybody else agrees. If you don't.
Well, let me say this. Since we're doing a public hearing today, we're actually voting on this on Thursday. So I think.
Well, we're going to vote on the actual budget, but I think it needs to be considered now.
Right, but I don't know if there's nothing action to be taken, and I don't think we can give direction during a public hearing. So.
I think that, okay, so I will go, I can speak as a parent if you want. Whatever, I think that's the whole purpose of the public hearing, is to have a robust conversation about what's been proposed inside the budget.
No, I'm saying, as far as giving direction to the board, because you said we should.
Well, I'm asking Dr. Breggy what he thinks, because he would know what the needs are. I'm just asking.
So to address your question, I do think that we're in such a large state of change right now that it might not even just be the site, but the number of students at a site. And at Beverly Vista, that's obviously a different type of challenge. So I wouldn't be opposed to, we need to take a focus on food service just overall. Not only just in the delivery and the staffing, because I do think that, from what I'm hearing, there are some situations where, students aren't able to be served in a manner that's quick enough, so people bring their own lunch. I just think that from menu to delivery, to quality and selection, this is an area that I would love to target this year, because I think that there's a lot of improvements that we can make.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. No problem. The Board of Education has heard your comments and concerns. There you go. And we thank you. No, it's the first time it's actually true. And we thank you very much for your input. Public hearing is now closed at 6:19. So these items are going to be brought to the board on Thursday morning to be finalized. So thank you, colleagues, for that. We're going to move up item number, sorry, my agenda is shifted around. I don't know, here it is. I got it. The board discussion item number, which is 18, on special education. In the interest of time, my colleague has an early evening to attend to, so I will turn it over to you, Mrs. Hacker, if you want to begin the conversation on this, and then we're being passed some documents here to take a look at.
Maybe they want to start presenting?
Is there a presentation or was it a discussion item? Do you have a PowerPoint on this? Okay.
We can,
No, we can go with your PowerPoint. You did the work on it. So,
You want me to just start, or?
well,
I haven't even seen this.
yeah, no, we can let Laura go first and see if you can.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Margot. So what we have here is some information both about the year in review. It will also touch on some of the things that the FCMAT report highlighted for us earlier this year, and also a preview of the 1920 school year. So I'd like to, it was requested by the board to have an update as to the changes to the programs, the special education programs for the 1920 school year. So we'll start with that. If you look at the first slide, we're talking about programmatic changes for across the district. So what we have are several things, and you need to kind of look at both of your documents to get the full picture. So if you can take the larger packet, and actually the first 2 pages will help you understand what I'm going to explain to you. So the first large document is the staffing across the district that has been updated, and this is where everybody is as of today, notwithstanding the resignation that we received on the way here. So things change, you know, in real time. So, but this is where everyone is as of today. But if you flip to the second page, this is what I want to highlight for you. For Horseman and for Hawthorne, we have added a total of 5 classes at each campus. We've added intervention classes for all the students. We've added special day classes, and we've restructured our RSP program. Previously, last year, basically our RSP program consisted of co-teaching only, where the special education teacher would push into the general ed classroom. We had a few sections where the teachers could pull the students out to work with them individually or in small groups on their IEP goals, but we have revamped that and restructured that to make it more robust. And then again, I already mentioned the reading and math intervention classes that we'll have for all students, and that's actually explicit direct instruction in reading comprehension, reading decoding, and math computation, and math reasoning. The presentation is online.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yes, but this is not, the large papers are not, but these are dropped into the presentation, so he can actually see them. The last one that I would like to highlight for you, 2 more things. Our Prime program has now been expanded to serve all school sites. Previously, it was only located at Horseman and the high school. We now have Prime classes to serve our moderate severe students at all campuses, which is very beneficial. Students don't have to travel. If you live in one school's attendance area, you don't have to travel to another school if you need that program. And then the last thing is the CEC program, the Counseling Enriched program, which is at Beverly Vista, which is actually what our parent was speaking of today. That is the program that we're using to help our students be able to stay in district and meet their needs. So this is a highlight of all the changes for you. I'll walk you through them a little bit more and the process for them as we go forward. This is the staffing that you have here on the first page. So just want to highlight for you, if you look at the top where it says RSP intervention, this is what I was referencing when I said we'll be able to provide direct explicit direct instruction to our students in reading and math. If you see, we have that, if you look, we have that at both Hawthorne, Horseman, and Beverly Vista. We are also working to put that in place at the high school. I think we'll be able to infuse that into the high school. We have a whole room of materials that we've ordered and received, and we will be training our teachers in early August for the rollout in the fall in the program. So there's that. Okay, then this is a snapshot of the Horseman and Hawthorne programs. So if you look, this is very detailed, but it gives you an overview of the types of student, the type of student that would be in the RSP or co-teaching program, in the special day class, in the prime program, and the students that would receive intervention or pull-out services.
So, Ms. Chisholm, for those that are at home, this document is attached to the agenda for those that want to go online and open it up so you can actually read. I know the print is really small on this one, but my understanding is that this one is a description of the methods used, or get the right word here, the qualifications for each program.
Correct. It describes the typical student that would be in each program. Right. It describes the curriculum that's used in each program. Okay. It describes the strategies that the teacher, some of the strategies that the teachers would use in the program, and also kind of what would the average student in each program look like, so that we kind of have an idea of who these programs would serve.
So I encourage those that are wondering about our special ed program to dive into this at your own leisure and take a look at the specifics on here, because they explain how the entire program kind of comes together holistically to serve student needs at all of our sites, and in a very balanced way right now, which is the impetus for some of the changes along with the reconfiguration. Sorry to interrupt. You can continue.
No problem. Yeah, absolutely. And then if you see the first column where it says additional program, that's where we added the prime program at Hawthorne. Previously, we only had one elementary prime program. Okay. So that's one of the changes. Then if you go to the next column, the special day classes, all 4 of those classes are new. 2 at Hawthorne, 2 at Horseman. Then if you move over to the next column where it says resource, and then in parentheses, co-teaching. Like I said, we had resource before, but it was not detailed out like this. We only had one model. We now have 3 models of resource programs within the district to meet the needs of the students based on whether or not they can be served in the general education classroom. Then the teacher pushes in. If they need to have instruction individually or in a small group, then the teacher will pull them out and work with them. And then the third piece of that would be our intervention. So when the students are needing support in either reading and math to help them reach grade level, that will be the intervention that they're receiving. And I also have some information for you regarding the program that we selected. So I've kind of already gone through this. The piece that I wanted to share with you is that we're really happy about and proud about is that we've been working with both the elementary principals and with Dustin and the Ed Services program to ensure common instructional time for math and English language arts, which is huge. Because now that allows every student to be able to move into whatever class they need for instruction, because everyone's receiving that math instruction, their math instruction at the same time, and their English language arts, ELA, at the same time. So that gives us so many more options to meet the needs of students, and it's not only our special education students, it's general education students as well. We had 3 meetings. We had one at BV, we had one at Horseman, and one at Hawthorne, parent meetings, special education coffees. They were all very well attended, and we went through all of these options with parents and did tours so that parents could see the facilities and ask questions.
And if parents couldn't attend the meetings, how were they given this information?
Through their teachers, through their principals, through mailings going out, and every parent had a transition IEP meeting at the end of the school year where their students' individual program was talked about and where they fit on this continuum.
Thank you.
So parents are aware that the prime program is going to be also shared over at Hawthorne, was going to be provided at Hawthorne, were parents told?
I actually met with those parents on last Friday at ER and had a parent meeting regarding the prime program there, yes.
So all of our students have been informed as
Yes.
of last Friday? Okay.
The next one is even harder to read because there's more information. This is Beverly Vista. This is our middle school. Again, we have the same types of programs. Special day class, intervention, prime, resource, all 3 levels, and then our counseling and enrich program. Again, this document just goes through the program and lets you know, again, the typical student, the strategies, the curriculum, and the information about the program there. We're really excited about the Counseling and Enrich program because we're hoping that we'll be able to provide support for students who need, who have behavioral needs but are academically intact, to be able to keep them in the district and not have to send them to schools outside of the district. So this is a pilot program for us. This is something that's new. I have a manual here for you to see. It was too big to duplicate, but I have a copy for the board to look at. We're really excited to be able to try to meet the needs of our kids within the district and not have to move them out into different schools. So, master schedule. This was a this was a challenge. Mr. Seaman says nightmare, but we got it done. What we had to do, but it resulted in additional co-teaching sections in English and language arts for all of our students. We worked with aligning our course offerings at the middle school with the 9th and 12th grade course offerings at the high school. And we're creating pathways for students with mild disabilities to be able to be competitive for college admissions. Oh, that's high school, sorry. I clicked one too many times. Who's playing with the clicker? Oh. Josh, I need you. But I'll keep talking while we get that. Sorry, Josh. Thank you. We were able to build the master schedule for the middle school and lock it in place with special education first, and then build the rest around it. So we have all the electives, we have all the co-teaching sections, which is, I don't know if you guys know, but that's very challenging because we have to align prep times, we have to align teams. One more, and then maybe teach me how to use the clicker. There we go. Thank you. Yeah, we talked about the counseling enriched. What I'm talking about now is the third bullet. By creating grade level teams, the co-teaching opportunities increased. The student schedules were created to provide maximum contact with their case carriers. These are things that were not happening before. So these are all improvements to our program to help support our students to be successful. The last one is the high school. And this is what I was talking about. By adding in, we had, this year, the far right column is new. So we didn't have an adult transition program. Our prime program and our adult transition program were all one class. So we had students from 18 to 22 in one class. We've now separated them out. The 9th through 12th grade students are in one class, and then the students who have completed their high school experience but are continuing on to their 22nd birthday are in a second classroom. So that was new for this year. Then for next year, we're adding in 2 special day classes for students who need more time in special education or more intensive instruction in special education. And then we are revamping our co-teaching and resource model there too. And then we've always had our Counseling and Enrich program classroom there, but we've also revamped that to match what we're doing at the middle school, so it's aligned. So any student who needs it at the middle school that matriculates to the high school will have the similar type program at the high school. This is the piece that was very important for us, and we reinstated the middle school to high school articulation meetings. So we actually had high school and middle school case carriers meet together to develop course offerings and course requests for our students who are matriculating to the high school to make sure that their schedules match their IEPs. Couple of other additional improvements and things that have gone on in the department throughout this year. I've highlighted our intervention program. This is what we're using at every level. Corrective reading will be, and corrective math will be for grades 1 through 8. We have also essentials for algebra, so that will be for any student who is 9th grade and higher that needs math intervention. We will be doing 2 full days of training for our teachers who are teaching these programs in early August, so that we are ready to roll it out when school starts. Parent and staff communication. I'm going to pass this down. There are some examples in there for you of what we've been doing. We had 3 newsletters that went out to parents, and you can see there we had several readers and people who participated. It was sent out electronically to all our families. We had items included in the Norman Daily Bulletin. We updated our district websites. We had a special education directory. We hosted 25 job-alike meetings for our related specialists, related services specialists, so our occupational therapists, our speech pathologists, our preschool teachers and school psychologists. And we also had a great autism awareness event that we brought to the board as well. Preschool, this was actually part of the FICMAT audit. They talked about changing the schedules to be more flexible to meet the needs of all the students. We did that. We lengthened the day. We created flexible schedules, and we are currently investigating additional co-teaching options and inclusive opportunities. With the new programs that we're putting on the sites, we'll be able to integrate into our own classrooms and not only and not rely solely on the city preschool. So we'll have more opportunities for our students. Instructional assistants. We updated our position control. We launched, I'm very proud of this, there's actually an example of that in that binder. We launched our SKIA evaluation process, which is basically a special circumstance instructional assistant evaluation. This is a formal evaluation that determines whether or not a student needs a one-on-one aid and whether or not to continue it. We launched this in December, and we've already been able to reduce 6 to 7 one-on-one aids that were no longer needed. We've been able to phase them out, and the students are doing well, so it was something that was much needed. Our Prime program, we've actually purchased the unique learning system for Prime, where we have, we're going to put in, it's going to be a formal curriculum that's used in all of our Prime classes across the board, so that all our teachers are teaching the same information and the same curriculum to our students. We continue to participate in the Special Olympics, and we are training our teachers for the unique system in the fall. One thing that's coming up for the high school is the By Your Side Club, and that's actually with our former student board member, Jonathan Artell. He's working on this from his as a project at Stanford, and he's going to be working in conjunction with us at the high school to get this up and running.
I think By Your Side already takes place, isn't it? Yeah.
It's being revamped to look more like Best Buddies, which is a national program. Jonathan's actually writing it as part of a project for college.
So I have to leave. I had already expressed that to Dr. Breggy and to Mr. Margot at the beginning of this week. But I do have a question regarding the Prime program, if that's okay.
Yes.
So the board was just recently informed about 2 weeks ago that Hawthorne is going to be now a new site for the Prime program. When was that decided?
When we had our transition IEP meetings in May, and we determined that there was a need for that.
Just recently?
Just recently.
In the last 3 weeks?
Probably in the last three to 4 weeks, yes.
Okay, so my concern is this, and maybe you have an answer for this. When the whole reconfiguration notion was pitched, as far as staffing needs for management at every site, the board was told that it was in the best interest of the district to invest in a second vice principal at Horseman because of the Prime program. And so the board went ahead and approved that appointment. So my question is, from a management perspective, if you are now going to have the Prime program at 2 different sites, how is this management second person going to work at like Hawthorne, for example, because I understand the way the way the model was presented over and over to the public in communication, in PowerPoint presentations here at the board, and in public, over and over, has been that we were going to have 2 vice principals at Horseman, and the prime program is there. So so that's why my concern is the parents and the students. Were they properly informed? Do they understand where they're going come August? When is it? When do we start school?
August 12th.
And who's going to be the manager on site at Hawthorne?
Okay, so competing interests. We have fiscal interest, and we have a response to a mandate by the federal government to provide programs for students, and not in a manner that does not segregate them or keep them away from their peers. So we need, as a district, we need to provide this program at all sites, because if you need a program, if you need the prime program and you live in Hawthorne, you shouldn't have to go to Horseman to get it. You should be able to get it at your home school. So that was part of the rationale behind that. In order to support that, if you go back to the first page of the document that I gave you, we are moving out our program specialists to be site-based this year. So if you look at Hawthorne under my support, you have two school psychologists who will help support the program, and you also have a program specialist who will be based at Hawthorne 2 days a week.
I'm talking about management specifically, because
Ms. Garland is management.
She's going to be a vice principal?
She's a program specialist who will help support the program, who can attend IEPs, who can support in the classroom, who can answer parent questions, who can help review any information or documents that are there that are or questions that arise regarding that program.
Is that going to serve the same role as the second vice principal at Horseman?
I would not say it's completely equal, but Ms. Garland is more than capable. She's credentialed in special education and has been here for 22 years.
She's been around the district. So from the beginning, when we did reconfiguration, I'm sorry I'm stepping on this, but I need to get this sorted in my head. It was requested of us to get a second AP at Horseman
because the prime program was there.
Not just the prime, but the entire
the number of the larger special education population
was there.
Right.
So even though I know that the enrollment of Horseman is much greater than Hawthorne at this point by 200 to 300 or something around there. About. So that alone might warrant a second assistant principal, and I believe, but I don't want it to appear that we're leaving Hawthorne out of a position that they may need to ensure that the special ed program is as successful. And I'm well aware of Ms. Garland's experience in the district. She predates myself, so she obviously has a strong understanding of the special ed program and having her on site, except you did list her under both sites.
Right, she will be splitting her time between the two, because we have both programs there, and also we have the second administrator at Horseman that would allow her to be more available to Hawthorne. The other thing is what we had to do, which was something that just was a facilities issue. When we first started talking about reconfiguration, the TK preschool classroom was initially supposed to be at Horseman. We had to move it because there was no physical space at Horseman for that program. So it was transferred to Hawthorne. So initially, you would have had an additional class at Horseman, and this class didn't. Then the prime class wasn't there. So
how
there
many
were
students
few.
in the prime program?
Total?
Total.
I'd have to check the numbers, but off the top of my head, I would say we have total in district about 90.
In the district, but I'm talking about Horseman.
I would have to look at the class list. I
don't
have the
remember
number off the
asking
top
that
of my
question
head.
when we were looking at a second VP, and I don't even think it was 50. So, I'm just, we only, again, I just wanted, because some staff had asked me, approached me a few weeks ago, and I had no knowledge, and so I said, no, that's not happening. And so I made a mistake in the information that I gave because I did not know this information. And really, to be quite honest, I just saw the communication. May 2nd, I think you had a coffee, and I think you had one May 21st. I think it was, just from looking at the notebook. That seems very, very recent, being that we're only on, it's June 11th today. So, you know, I think from a communication perspective, this information should have been part of the planning when we started to launch our vision for reconfiguration. I understand the needs change, but we had you know, I think you went before the board just recently and you gave a whole, you know, all the issues that we have with special ed, and you were going to come back and tell us how we were going to address those issues. And I know that I've been asking for that. And so I'm glad that I know that I asked President Margot to please put this on the agenda after I read the communication that we were going to have the prime program split up into two areas. I'm hoping really that parents do understand what is about to happen, because this happened. We tried to do this 3 years ago with another superintendent, and it didn't go well. And so the biggest complaint from parents and teachers, quite frankly, we weren't told. We weren't told. This is unfair. Right. And for me, that is, you know, this is the most vulnerable population, student population, and it just seems kind of unfair if they weren't informed a proper way. So as one board member, I want to say that we need more time, more communication, and it has to be part of the bigger piece of communication that we want to be behind for this district. So I'm not sure that, I really have to study this in, you know, much more closely. I'm still confused about the request for management at Horseman. It doesn't seem to pair up with what we were told. So I'm concerned about that. I think I heard Mr. Margot saying that he's also concerned. I understand who Mrs. Garland is, but I don't think it's the same role that Mr. Regan will be playing, or the position that we were told he would be playing at Horseman for the number of students at Horseman at the time. If so, you know, I think that I understand that Horseman has bigger enrollment, but that was never part of the conversation when we bought into the management.
Having the second management.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And with that, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but I have 5 more minutes and I'm going to listen and try to be quiet.
So I wanted to tag one more thing. And I appreciate putting the program specialist at Hawthorne to concentrate and give it the support. Were any students involuntarily moved from Horseman to Hawthorne, or how was that structured?
Involuntarily? No.
Yeah, so those that are in the program at Hawthorne wanted to be there.
The students at Hawthorne are either at our Hawthorne attendance area students or students who are ER attendance area students that were combined as part of reconfiguration.
So nobody was pulled out of Horseman and relocated to Hawthorne against their will?
No.
Okay.
No. And then the next piece we have that's coming up is now the responding to the request for transfers between Horseman and Hawthorne. And we have all those in and we're processing those, but those have not been responded to yet because we are in the process of reviewing them.
Okay.
And I have to present that data to
Okay.
Dr.
Well, I'll let you
first.
wrap it up, not wrap it up, but finish up, and then I'll go to my colleagues if they have
Sure.
anything.
I just want to take a second to respond to one of Mrs. Hacker's questions. No, I forgot the question. With the prime program, when you were saying, I remember when you were saying about the coffees, that was an opportunity for parents to come and ask questions. Each parent who was in this program had an individual meeting, and those meetings started as early as March, talking about where the students are going, where the program will be located, what the program will look like, what types of services and supports they'll have. So the coffees were basically after the transition meetings, IEPs were held, to allow parents to come see the facilities, ask questions, know who the teachers are, meet the site administrators, and go forward from there.
Well, Mrs. Chisholm, I'm not even sure if that's a better answer, because March is much more earlier than May, and I've been on the board since March, and again, we just were told 2 weeks ago, and this vision, I'm not opposed to it, but I'd like to know.
Well,
And if
there's
parents
two
would
parts to it. It's once you have the transition meetings, because remember, as we talk about in special education, you can't just force it. You have to get parental consent. So that consent usually sometimes takes 3 weeks, a month. So once we had the meetings and said, this is where we would like your child to go, we have to wait for them to say yes or no. Then once we get that, then we can determine what the need is. So it's a process.
I guess part of that process should have been to include the board, to notify the board that this was a vision from management. I think you understand where I'm coming from.
I understand.
don't think
I understand what you're saying.
Do I have support, or do I or am I making, I mean,
No,
did you all know? Because I didn't know.
No, yeah, well.
Okay, so I'd like for you guys to weigh in.
Mr. Spitz,
Yes.
do you have any comments?
Yeah, on the special ed program. I have been and I continue to be supportive of staff in reorganizing this branch of our district. It's needed, and anything that makes it more efficient and more effective, I'm 100% in favor of. With that said, I must tell you that I've been contacted by parents who have complained about changes and current practices, and I'm not comfortable bringing up those complaints in this setting because they go to personnel issues, and I was going to ask that this subject be revisited in a closed session so that I can share with board members the things that I've been told, and I think I have, hopefully, a very good suggestion to make. So I'll leave it at that. I would like, again, to see this subject revisited, Noah, when you can schedule it in a closed session.
Absolutely, Mr. Spitz.
That's it.
So,
I'm sorry, before we finish up, you had a couple more slides, and I just want to make sure our questions encompass
We
everything.
basically covered the information that's in there, just do it the dialogue.
Go ahead.
So, I always like to have more information, but I also recognize that there's a lot of value in being flexible and nimble and responding to the needs of the community and the students. I want to make sure that we find the right middle ground. We talked about this a little bit earlier today. It's always easier for the board to get behind something when we know about it before we start getting phone calls. So I'm not opposed to any of the changes. I wouldn't, question whether they were legitimate or properly made or anything like that. And I appreciate, being given the information now. And as a parent who had a student with needs that were not met many years ago, I'm incredibly appreciative of the changes and the new things that you're bringing forward and making available to the families in our community. So I don't really have a criticism of the timing of it. I don't know if it could have or how it could have been done earlier or faster. I just would love more information to have. I don't know. Maybe we need more status meetings so that we actually know what's going on before a final decision is made, so that we're not caught off guard. Overall, I think that's just my comment, but I'm very happy with what I see presented here. I think these are some remarkable steps forward in meeting the needs of the kids in our community that have not really been met before.
Thank you. Board Member Marcus?
I would like to make a comment about the fact that this is a very comprehensive plan. I'd like a little bit more information on the delineation on some of the classes about prime versus a special day class and so on. I think that's something that I can sit down with you and talk about, because my concern is the gap between the two areas and where you decide and so on. I also was, with what Mrs. Hacker said, about, when I first realized this, I thought to myself, wait a minute, they have an assistant principal at Horseman, but they don't have one at Hawthorne, which is, both the programs are going to be identical. Why didn't they also have one? And I'm not sure that I'm sold on the fact that, that this Karen Garland, who's going to be between schools, is going to be the answer for that, because now Horseman gets sort of like a person and a half, and Hawthorne gets a half a person, as far as I can tell. So that doesn't make me feel very good about that particular aspect of it. I do know that the program, as you've described it, is an attempt for us to have a complete continuum so that we can address all children who would need special education. And for that, we will not need to use outside services and things like that, which I think is really commendable. And I'm hoping that, and it will alleviate a lot of what we get into with legalities and so on.
Yes, that's the goal.
I would like to sit down with you and go over all of these. I have one little comment on the chart. Some people are listed with their name, Raquel. I don't know who, if she has a last name. There are people with no last names. I would love to know who those names are.
Sure.
Just for my own personal benefit. And as I say, I
doesn't fit in the box.
Huh?
It doesn't fit in the box. Some of the last names are long.
I know, but I
can provide that for you.
Raquel who, 3 days, Shady who, and that I look for, because that's just my nature.
Sure, no problem.
So you will be hearing from me in the next few days.
I look forward to it.
Vice President Mack, or anything else?
No, I think we're good.
Okay. Ms. Chisholm, thank you for bringing this to us. It was an important step for us to kind of get this up, posted, up in the room, make people aware of that a while ago, the board had asked if we can move towards a model of being more in-house with our special ed program, because we had spent so much outside.
Yes.
NPSs and other programs, private programs. So I appreciate that. This really encompasses a lot of work and a long time of vision that we discussed over a year ago easily. So I thank you for that. I did share the concern of my colleagues about the balance of administration. Perhaps what might quell that argument is that you can get us just numbers. How many people are enrolled at this school? How many people are enrolled at that? So if it not just in the general school, but the programs.
Got it.
Right? Because then that would help kind of better justify the need of an administrator specifically dedicated to the program at one site over another site. Because when I first heard through the issues that my colleagues were talking about, emails from parents, communications about the program being, and we say move to Hawthorne, it's just added to Hawthorne. So we want to be clear about that. The program still exists.
The preschool was moved because it was supposed to be at Horseman.
Right, but that wasn't the only thing. There was other stuff that was added.
And then one class was added.
Right.
The prime class was added.
Both. I think some of the issues I heard were over the prime, and that was added as opposed to moved. But,
correct.
You know, and that's why I asked the question about students and whether they voluntarily moved and were happy to be at that home school or go from El Rodeo to there because that was going to be their home school. I think that was important to understand. But if you can get some numbers on how this all balances out and how we're management and administration is being utilized, I think that would help a little bit too. Move forward. Okay. Thank you very much, colleagues. 2 conversations in a row about education. We're on a roll tonight. It was a dream come true. So, what we are going to do now, hold on to your hats and glasses if you got them, is the consent calendar. Yay. I'll make...
Mr. Margot?
I was given 2
if I
items.
may.
Yes, Mr. Spitz?
I'd like to pull items C and E.
C and E, and I also have B2 and L. Board Member Walker Schumann, did you have any?
I don't.
Board Member Marcus, did you have any
I gave you the
consent?
ones I had, L and...
L and B2. Yeah, B2 we're pulling anyway.
And is that B2, that one?
Oh, no, we're paying B1 we have to pull. We have a revised.
B1, I think it is, or whatever.
Yeah, we have a revised for B1. Okay. So I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar minus items B1, B2, C, E, and L.
A second.
Thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Calendar carries. Okay, let's go to items B1. We have a revised, just shuffling my paperwork here.
Are you, well, if you're on to item C,
No, we're not yet, Mr. Spitz. We have a revised certificated report, which mine vanished.
Hang on one second.
Do you have them? Sorry.
Yeah, but I'm on one, B1.
Yeah, 1B1. Yeah, there we go. Thank you. Okay. Colleagues, this is the revised. No, the revised classified. Oh,
Classified?
revised classified. Do we have a revised certificated?
Nope, it's just.
Oh, I apologize. I pulled B1 prematurely.
I have-
You want a B1?
Yes.
Okay, fine. So I'll make a motion to approve item 12B1, the certificated personnel report.
A second.
Thank you. Mrs. Marcus, you have the floor.
I was going through the certificated report with the number of people that are going to do summer's workshops such as curriculum, working on technology, with professional development, and with reconfiguration. And it appeared to me that it was quite an undertaking, and I was very impressed. It's a very robust summer that our teachers and administrators are going to be undergoing, and for that I'm very grateful. However, there was one thing that did strike me that was something that I would like to have a little more clarity on, and that is that every person who was doing something for so many hours or so many days or whatever that they were, that there was an exact remuneration for that particular item. And yet, when it came to the one for lines 360 through 380, on the administrators, to be specific, there was no specific amounts other than something like a daily rate. And I think in the being transparent, I think that that looks bad from my standpoint. I don't know how anybody else feels, but I would like to have that clarified, just so that it's for the record. And I know it may not have done in the past, but maybe nobody ever saw it that way. I did.
Well, I believe it's based on the reconfiguration, extra work, so I don't.
It is.
I don't, we've never done this in the past.
It is, but
So-
I also just want to comment that I completely agree with you, that it's a little misleading, because we're very clear about what some items are, and I think that where this came from is that we have administrators that are canceling some vacations and making last-minute changes so that they can be in their schools the last couple of weeks of June. So, the calendar starts over for us in July, so we're really talking about 10 days here, but I understand your point completely.
I think it looks, the
And-
optics of it was.
Yeah, and so what I can do is I'll provide the board with an exact number, but you might be surprised to see that with most of our administrators, it's maybe 2 days here, maybe 3 days, but I think that that's a fair ask, that should be clearer, because it looks pretty open-ended.
And I noticed also that many of the things that are there, they won't be as many hours or days when it comes down to the final thing. But right now, for me, that just looked, and I, being the first year on the board, would pick up on something like that. So I appreciate your taking care of that.
That's a great observation.
Thank you.
So, Dr. Brady, are you just going to get us that information, or are you going to reform the report?
I can provide you with that information. I
Okay.
think that at this point, it's important to just,
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure. I don't know if we need to pull these or not, or we can just let it go.
It'd be my recommendation that it's not pulled, but that I just provide you with some exact
Do we need a
exact
motion
dollars.
to approve that item, though?
We already have a motion for the report, so.
Oh, on that, okay.
Yeah, okay. Any other questions on this? So you'll get that information back to us. Thank you very much.
Yes, I'll get that to you shortly.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries 4-0. Moving on to, I want to make a motion for revised classified personnel report.
Second.
Thank you very much. There was just corrections from staff on this, so we have revised it. Colleagues, any questions on this classified personnel report? No, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Item C.
That was Mel.
Make a motion for the approval of professional service agreement with First Tech Inc. for the 2019-2020 school year.
I second.
Mrs. Marcus, you had a question on this one.
No, I didn't. I think it was Mr. Spitz.
Oh, Mr. Spitz, you had a question on item C?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions.
Okay, sir.
First of all, I see this is a $125,000, a fee not to exceed $125,000. Can somebody tell me what the fee was last year?
It was the same. I don't think we made any changes to the,
It was the same, Mr. Spitz.
It was the same. And on a issue like this where there's a fee not to exceed $125,000, shouldn't there be some kind of a fee schedule showing hourly rates or some means of how they will determine the actual fee?
we can provide the hourly fee. It's Carther.
We can provide
Yeah, that's easy. I can email that as part of the weekly update. Can you all hear? The mic isn't.
Bernadette will provide that as part of the weekly update for you, Mr. Spitz.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions, Mr. Spitz?
No.
Okay, colleagues? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Thank you, motion carries. Moving on to item E. Can I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the Eludo software licensing and services for the 2019-2020 school year.
I'll second.
Thank you very much, Mr. Spitz. Who pulled this one?
I had questions.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I wonder if I can know who recommended this, contract, this agreement, and who approved of it. What other districts are using it?
Okay.
And lastly, how much additional screen time will our students be subjected to?
So the other districts that are using it, I can,
Just a minute. Ms. Lucas is making her way over to the speakerphone.
Hello, Mr. Spitz.
Yes?
So the other districts that are using it, I can provide that as part of the weekly update. Who recommended it were our coaches, our I-4 coaches, as connected to professional development. And it hasn't been approved yet. I have to bring it here for approval, but I felt confident and comfortable bringing it forward to board.
And what about the additional screen time question?
Oh, thank you. The additional screen time. So we're largely using it for digital citizenship. So that's a hard question to answer because it's not a ton of additional screen time. It's what they would be doing anyway for digital citizenship. We have a real need.
More time on the computer, isn't it?
It's more time on the computer, but maybe, I'm guesstimating maybe 20 minutes a week, if that. It's largely around digital citizenship. We have a real need to ensure that our students are well prepared to be responsible citizens online, and this was a solution we wanted to use. So it's not an inordinate extra amount of time on the device.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions?
No.
All in favor?
Wait, sorry. Does this partner with, it says in some of your answers here, but does this partner with the PBIS system? Because it looks like a lot of the same topics that we'd be talking about in the behavioral.
It does include a lot of it. We need to work that part out with Ms. Chisholm and Ms. Laurier, but it does. Yes,
Okay.
Ms. Walker-Street.
Thank you.
Good question. Sorry, thank you. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item L, can I get a motion for that, please?
I make a motion for approval of the licensing agreement with document tracking services for 2019-20 school plan and LCAP.
I second. I was the one that brought this one up. I was confused by the fact that says that we're tracking services of $1,695 for the license, And for that, we get 5 document searches, so I'm doing my math. We pay $363 for those 5 searches. And then every other search after that is $117 over and above that. And then it says that is a $200 setup fee, original setup fee. And then if you want to do customized searches, that's another $850. And I don't know how many, I think they're $39 per search for that. I think it was misleading, because my then question was, well, how many searches do we do a year? And so I think that by looking at and saying it's going to cost us $1,695 is very misleading. It's going to cost us a lot more. And maybe you can answer that.
Absolutely. So Document Tracking Service is actually a nationwide company, but the state of California adopted it. If in the public hearing, even President Margot, President Noah, sorry, had read that the state adopted a certain format that we had to fulfill the LCAP to meet the state needs. And they adopted this as part of that. So it's kind of one of those purchases that we are almost strong-armed into making. But the nice part is this Board of Education 3, if not 4 years ago, had already paid those surcharges to create the document specific to Beverly Hills. So now we're just each year updating. So the $16.95 is the only charge that we had in 18-19, because we aren't changing any of the formatting. They've already created it to fit Beverly Hills needs, meaning we're basic aid school, and our sections are created towards our population. So, but in the application, if something were to change, if we were to say switch from basic aid to ADA, our application for the LCAP would shift, and that's where those surcharges would come into play. But I think that would be a much larger conversation than this, if we were to switch from basic aid to ADA.
So these searches have nothing to do with the RPA, request for public, apps, nothing to do with that.
No, the document tracking services is specifically for our communication, basically to and from to the CDE and LACO around 2 items. That's the school site plan and the LCAP. Those are the things. That's why I would love to take credit for the beautiful graphs, say on the front of the LCAP. Honest, they're part of the format. But
Thank you for your clarification.
Work, doesn't it? Yeah. So it's those were the items that were specifically created for Beverly Hills, because we are one of the 13 basic aids districts. So they had to manipulate the original LCAP.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? No. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries, and we are done with consent. Thank you, colleagues. We're going to move on to the superintendent's report. Dr. Breggy?
Just a quick report. We are spending a little bit of time now speaking with the Traffic and Parking Commission, and Mr. Blake and I, along with Fernando from PlaceWorks, had an opportunity to speak to the commission just last week, and it was a very positive meeting. We are following up on a few items that they had asked us to follow up on, and we have ongoing meetings this week and next week, and we'll be re-presenting that information to them. Just on another note, Dr. Fine from Horseman asked Ms. Starkins and Mr. Regan and I to do something that I've not done before, which I thought was a really interesting way to get to know the community. We went out yesterday for about 3 hours, and as a team, we just walked around and we met businesses and homeowners that are in the immediate area, so along Robertson, and it was a great way to build some partnerships, run into a lot of alumni, and a lot of people knew a lot what was happening with Reconfiguration, so it was great that we were able to answer some questions about that, as well as some of the current construction that's going on there with the new roof. And so that was just a great opportunity. It was one of the first times in the last year to take 3 hours and do something where you're just not running, where you're actually building relationships with the community. So something that I'd like to see at all of our schools coming up. It was a very worthwhile experience.
Thank you, Dr. Breggy. And for the final time, Mr. Toomy.
one more time. So there are a couple remarks I'd like to make. First, wow, it's kind of crazy because I've been in this district for 13 years, from kindergarten at Alodeo all the way up to 12th grade at the high school, and then this seat right here. So throughout this whole time, and especially this past year, there's some groups of people I'd like to extend my gratitude for. And to the board first, Mr. Spitz, Mrs. Walker-Schumann, Mrs. Marcus, Mrs. Hacker, and Mr. Margot. You have all been so incredible this past year or this past 6 months. Just simply observing what you do really made me realize how much courage it takes to be a board member, especially in this district. And all the time, all the effort, all the thought, and all the care you have is simply incredible. So not only commend you for your efforts, but it is really admirable the amount of time and effort you put in. So I know there are always issues that go on, but thank you for everything you guys do for our entire community here. Thank you for the wonderful gift. It is very generous. So surprisingly, I will miss it. I will miss being on this board, but thank you all for an amazing year. It has been great. Dr. Breggy, I think if I had $1 for every time we had a meeting, we could probably cover the entire construction project here at the high school. But I think I've gotten to know you so much more than probably any other adult in the entire district throughout my entire time in this school district. From the very beginning, you were extremely open to any suggestions, any questions or comments I had to say, and you really valued my opinion in whatever matter it was, from right off the bat, our first meeting talking about Metro and hitting me with fact after fact after fact, to just minor issues, everyday conversations, having me come up to you with any suggestions I have for improving the school in any way possible. You have been such a great role model for me, and again, the time and effort you put into just making this the best district it can be, I really admire that, and it has been so great working with you this past year. So thank you. I hope to keep in touch with you as well.
Thanks.
To the cabinet, all the district staff, and Pam, a lot of what you guys do goes unnoticed, and I do not envy the work that you have to do on a day-to-day basis, but even just coming by the office and asking you questions, seeing the questions you have to ask here at all the meetings, they, again, make me more intelligent as a person, and they help me develop as a student and as a person growing up and going into college. So it has been so incredible getting to know all of you as well, and thank all of you for the wonderful gift as well. Some other groups, to all the parents in this community, even though sometimes I did get some nice emails or phone calls, I felt what it was like to be a true board member, and even when in all the tough times, every single comment I got from every parent in this community has helped me grow as a person as well, helped me learn how to speak on different issues, how to represent the students in a group that you have to represent, and to be a better leader for our community. So thank all of you for helping me become a better person. To all my friends, all the students, to thank you for always not being afraid to come up to me, whether it's in the hallways, over text, and just asking me questions, giving your complaints, because that's what made me be the best I can at this job. It has been a pleasure representing everyone, not only here at the high school, but throughout the whole district. So thank you for being so open with me and communicating with me as much as possible. To KBEV, those wonderful people back there who come to every single meeting, who videotape every single meeting, you guys are incredible. Anytime there is a problem, I just see you guys running around every single day. So thank you for all the work you put in. And also to my parents and family, I know they had to leave early, but they are so helpful in every single case, no matter what it is, every single venture I have, they always have my back, and I really appreciate that about them. And also one more person I forgot to mention, Ryan Abishami. He had to leave early, but it has been great working with him as a partner, not only in ASB and for our school,
but also in our community and working towards greater efforts to help our community at large. So Ryan, thank you. It has been so great to work with him as well. And now that I have extended my gratitude, I'd like to end off by highlighting some critical issues I feel like are important to mention that I have gone through as a student board member this year that I also think will be relevant next year. And first off, looking forward, I know my seat is in very good hands because the incoming board member, Thomas Recupero, is an incredible student. He's an incredible person. And to the board, if you have not met him, trust me, you will love him as soon as possible because he's an amazing person. And I know you will do a great job this coming year. So it's been amazing to get to know you. But I remember when I first came into this position, I was looking back at previous student board members and I realized that every person usually had one big issue and then some minor issues to focus on throughout the year. And now reflecting back, I feel like I had 3 very large issues and some minor issues as well to deal with. But overall, they have been incredible, and I'd like to highlight those issues right now, to reflect on them and see and to comment on how I think they will go in the future. So first off, salary negotiations. That really made me realize how unique my position is in this chair, because although I come here to every meeting representing the students, I felt myself tied between all the teachers' interests, all the teachers that I see on a day-to-day basis, the board's interests and the district in which I've seen a new side of the argument, parents, and I just felt myself tied between every single group. And that actually gave me a very unique perspective because through all that, it made me realize that although conflicts may happen, it is very important to see how these conflicts affect our students. And so going forward, whether it is salary negotiations or any conflict of that matter, I really encourage the board, the district, and to any third party to really consider the actions that they take and how it will affect the students at this school and at every school in our district. Because at the end of the day, we're all here for education, and if anything we're doing comes to the harm of their learning in the classroom, that is obviously going against our purpose. So throughout every effort you're making, I encourage you to always please remember that you're here for the students and to make sure what you are doing is for the benefit of them. And then came along Metro, something I did not expect to come into my hands, but it has been quite a ride with that campaign. And you could go on and on, arguing either side, throwing the facts out there. But the big takeaway from that whole approach was how there was just a lot of uncertainty with that issue, just like how there could be uncertainty with every issue. And when we're putting the people of our future, these students, at risk, that is, in my opinion, and at many students' opinion, always a no-go. And that we don't know where the future of this issue with Metro is going, but continue to question, continue to inquire, and anytime you see doubt, no matter how difficult the situation may be, always go after that. I say that to all the students in any venture they go off into, all the parents, even if they see this as a dead cause, continue to fight for the interests of your students, of your children, and to go after what you think is right. Again, this is a very hot topic, but at the end of the day, it's affecting our children and the people who will be running our future come decades. So don't let that go away and continue to fight for what's right. And finally, reconfiguration. I was lucky in that I didn't have to start with this whole process, but I did learn a lot, and I think that's where the bulk of my learning came with this position, in terms of learning the different configurations of whether it's a middle school, keeping the K-8s or a 712, just interacting with parents and the board and district staff about these different configurations. And moving forward, I'm very proud to see that we have actually decided to reconfigure our schools, and I'm so happy to see where that is going now. And I know that amazing things are going to be happening this August, and so I applaud everyone on the board in the district, all the parents at home, for really coming together and deciding to make this change for what's best in the future of our school district. So I'm very happy to see where that has come along, and I'm very excited to see how that will turn out this August and in the coming years. And to close, I would like to say one more remark, and it actually relates to my first ever public comment to this board. It was last January 2018, right in the middle of Reconfiguration. I think that was the meeting that went on until like 12 a.m. But I went up to the public comment area, and with the first time I saw this issue it had to do with something I was learning in my calculus class and a concept about optimization. And I tried to go up there and say how there's no perfect solution, everyone has to work together, and just keep in mind that there's always trade-offs. I don't know if many people listened to my message. I don't know if it was the right time for that because it was such a heated time, but in conflict or non-conflict, I think we all have to keep optimization in the front of our minds because our community is diverse, it is incredible, and with that will always come conflict. So always remember that you are not alone. There are other people with similar situations, with other problems as well, and there's always a need for a compromise. And that wherever we go, there's not one person who could do the job alone. Every single person should and has to take part in everything that goes on in the school district. And so I'd like to conclude by whatever happens with the future of this board and with our school district, I encourage a lot of togetherness with parents, with students, everyone, every single stakeholder with this district. Always come together, ask your questions, share your complaints. There will be bad times, but in the end, when we're all working together, even if it's in disagreement, that is how the best solutions will come out. So I'm excited to see how the school district will turn out in the coming years. It has been an incredible year, and I'd just like to thank everyone for helping me out in this entire process. And that is all.
Thank you, Sean. That was one of the most complete outgoing comments I've heard from a student board member and you're the 8th one I've worked with. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Never bad times, just challenging times. Remember, we don't use the word bad. Okay, colleagues, moving along. Human resources, I need a motion to approve an agreement for one Assistant Superintendent of Business Services.
I make a motion for approval of agreement for employment of Assistant Superintendent, Business Services.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you very much. Any discussion? Okay. Did you want to say?
No.
No, go right ahead.
Okay.
I'll say something right after.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 4-0. Thank you very much, Dr. Breggy.
So just officially, I would like to welcome Mr. Wade Roach to our community and our school district. Congratulations.
Okay, Business and Finance. I need a motion for item 15A.
I move for the 15A, rejection of claim number 571255.
A second.
Thank you very much. Questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 4-0. Planning and Facilities. I know that my colleague had asked some questions in item 16A, but I think we should get some clarification. Just a brief update on these 3 issues, really brief, and before we move on to the voting items. So is that Mr. Pileman, Mr. Blake, who is wrapping on those 2? Thank you, Jeff. So questions were asked this week, just for a brief update on reconfiguration. Oh, we're getting packets. We're getting packets. Here we go.
Wow, they're smaller than the binders from last time. So.
Okay, and what's going on with some items around the district? So this is way more complete than I thought we were getting today, which just separates me from my dinner. So thank you, Mr. Pileman. Your diet plan is working for me. I just come to board meetings and I never eat. So it's whatever that is, whatever that's called, it's working, it's happening. It's dropping off, melting right off me.
Look at this.
President Margot, members of the board, is the microphone working right now? Can you tell?
You can hear it.
Yeah, it's working online.
So, item 1 in the planning facilities section was a presentation or an update on the reconfiguration efforts and construction over the summer. I can spin through that rather quickly if you like. I've handed out hard copies. There is now a digital copy posted online. It will also be in our department section on the website tomorrow. And earlier, a digital copy was sent to Mr. Spitz.
Thank you.
If you don't mind, I'd like to spin through this, and I'll keep it as brief as possible. Then we can go into some of the questions on the action items on the agenda.
Great.
So, Josh, if I could get a little help with the lights, possibly, it may be a little easier to read some of the photographs that we have coming forward. So, this is a combination of the reconfiguration work going on this summer, our bond work going on, as well as maintenance and operations department's efforts over the next 60 days. El Rodeo School is the first campus I'd like to talk about. El Rodeo is the first campus we began the reconfiguration moves to the other campuses. Demolitions in process, working up to the removal of the modular buildings. The first buildings will begin leaving the campus on June 24th. We plan to have just about all buildings off-site by the end of July. Paving the way for asbestos and lead abatement to begin in Building E, which is the commencement of the modernization of the El Rodeo School. This first picture was with the help of Ms. Walker Schumann. We did the annual 8th grade signing of the El Rodeo Bell Tower, since it was going to be their last year there. So you can see we got them all the way up to the 4th floor. There was about 6-7 staff members, and I think all the students really enjoyed that outing that day.
I used to teach in that room. The kids used to come through.
That's a beautiful room right below the bell tower. This photograph is showing nothing.
So this is what's currently going on, everybody. Not true. Not true. All right.
So what, Josh will have that back up in a minute.
You can use visual descriptive words.
Visual descriptive, we'll keep going.
If this was up here, you would be seeing a picture of.
What we're utilizing on all campuses this summer is a pod method of moving the furniture, instructional materials from one campus to the next. So each campus right now has between 19 and 25 pods delivered and staged. That material is coming out of the classrooms into the pods. The pods are being labeled for the separate campuses. Then they're dispersed throughout the city to the campuses that are that they will land and ultimately go into the classrooms at that campus. So this is the culmination of about 4 months worth of planning on the overall move. We're getting adaptive to last minute changes, and excuse me, we refer to them as audibles. So if you ever hear the word audible coming from us, that means that was a last minute change. Just a few pictures, and a lot of this is intended to be a photo book that we can hang on to for the summer of 2019, which is executing the reconfiguration that's been discussed for the last couple of years. Each campus, we're consolidating surplus material, furniture, as well as IT separately. At the end of the summer, after reconfiguration is done, the students come back. We'll have an opportunity to make sure we furnish each classroom properly prior to going through a proper disposal of excess furniture and older furniture and equipment in the district. This move is forcing us to do one thing, and that's kind of clean our house. If you've ever moved from one house to a next, it's a great time to kind of lighten the load, if you will. We have a lot more material and equipment older equipment stored than I think we thought we had until we began cleaning out these campuses. Demolition was following right behind the movers moving the furniture and teaching materials out of the modular buildings. These pictures were from mid-last week. We actually mobilized on the 31st, started work on June 1st, Saturday. As of right now, all the concrete ramps for the modulars on the Wilshire side of the campus are demolished, moved out of the way, ready for the modular building company, William Scotsman, to begin lifting the buildings off the ground and preparing them for travel. Beverly Vista, we have a great deal of activity going on this summer at Beverly Vista. Some of the highlights, obviously the move, security cameras being installed throughout the campus, an IT project to upgrade the phone systems, the wireless access systems, the PAs, the bells, paving the way for a 75-inch ViewSonic TV on a cart with wireless control capability to go into each classroom, synthetic turf, dance rooms, all the way down to the food service and kitchen renovation to accommodate the new student population. In addition, M&O is working diligently on that campus as well, along with facilities, fire life safety, fire alarm repairs, maintaining the artificial turf in the sports fields on all campuses, which has been well overdue, and doing some lighting control panel, bulbs, and replacements for all campuses. Beverly Vista had its pods staged the first week of June as well. We see Ken Haas in the lower right-hand picture. He's watching from home, so I want to make sure I mention his name. He is nicknamed Captain Pod. He's in charge of all pods all summer. When they land, when they move.
He's living in that one, right?
Yeah. Again, the pods at Beverly Vista, dispersed, ready to be loaded. We're installing synthetic turf in the reading green areas, most people refer to it at the Beverly Vista campus, as well as asphalt paving in the kindergarten area. Removing the fence that divided the kindergarten area from the reading green to open up the campus for more accessibility. Also working on the southern hard surface play court area, installing asphalt where the current elementary play structures were. We have new lunch tables and umbrellas being delivered in mid-July. Also have a preliminary design to review with the facilities committee for lunch shelters in phase 2, permanent lunch shelters for this campus. Inside, a few pictures of the IT infrastructure work going up. The one on the left is a conversion of a workroom to a new conference room for Kevin Allen and his administrative staff. On the left is a consolidation of IT equipment that's unused or older. This is an e-waste program is being put together to dispose properly of antiquated electronic equipment that's being gathered throughout the campuses. Now I'm going to move on to Horseman. So, also moving in progress at Horseman, the re-roofing project that we've discussed previously. The 300-ton chiller renovation is already completed, as well as the maintenance of the new artificial turf that's out on the purple field. Saturday, June 1st, first day after school, the temporary fence went up, dividing the campus in half once again to separate the city summer school program on the west half of the campus to construction on the east half of the campus. We are coexisting with those summer programs during this construction operation. Pods delivered first week of June, ready for the movers to begin loading. This is a few pictures of the roof project before we began the demolition. This is actually standing water that was identified on the roof in the mechanical wells. That water was not draining properly, thus leading to some of the leaks that we experienced this winter. And that's what we're remedying in this roof project, among other items. Just some additional pictures of some deteriorated roof that's being replaced. And as the roof tiles begin to be removed, again, all this progress happened the very first week of summer. Moving through, progression. That's a dumpster on the left that's they're disposing of the clay tile on. To what you see is a roof that is almost cleaned off, ready to begin re-roofing. Jumping right into Hawthorne. Hawthorne, in addition to the move, also has a security camera project underway for cameras throughout the project. Additional Wi-Fi access points in every classroom, digital phone, clock, PA bell upgrades. Also, 75-inch ViewSonic monitors in each classroom with wireless control capability. Perimeter fence screening. We have roof repairs, nurse's office upgrade, fire alarm repairs, elevator, HVAC, a rekeying effort, all planned and in progress at Hawthorne. A few pictures. Pods were staged this week already at Hawthorne. Wiring for the WAP and security cameras already in progress. Beverly Hills High School. In addition to some of the projects you already know about, the oil well project, which we're currently at 10 wells complete. The 11th well is 75% complete and will be completed in next week. And we're pushing towards our goal of the complete cap of all 19 wells. B1, B2 modernization is continuing on. The South Bridge demolition began this week. If you see outside, it's been tented for asbestos and lead abatement prior to the full demolition. That South Bridge demolition is a component of the B1, B2 modernization. Student and teacher relocation or interim housing for the B3, B4 programs is well underway. We have 20 movers on site for the last 2 days. By tomorrow, we're hoping end of day, B4 will be completely cleared out and will be about 90% of that move complete in 3 days. High school demolition, B3, B4 demolition is already underway. B3, I have some photographs of the progress. Security camera project already underway. The parking structure in Building A has already been wired. They're in the Conheim and will start in the village next week. We'll finish off Building A and the STC once summer school ends, the first week of July. I will also include security cameras at the district office and pan zoom tilt camera on the annex building that faces the high school and can be controlled in any which direction you want. Fire life safety repairs, working with M&O. The swim gym study and assessment is in progress. A few pictures of the oil well project. On the left is the horizontal flare, which is being used to control the methane, is still on site. We had all wells bled down and controlled to less than 20 pounds for graduation, and it was a no work day during graduation. So we're glad to see that that went off without any conflicts with adjacent construction. On the left is the bulk cement trucks that deliver the powder cement on a daily basis to our oil well project. And on the right is the mixing equipment that mixes and injects that cement into these 19 wells with an average depth of 8,400 feet each. The working rig on the left, the tubes that are standing in the rack adjacent on the left side of the rig is actually the casing and rods that get pulled out of the wells first before they're cemented full. On the left is the blowout preventer that gets assembled and clamped to the top of each well. That is sitting over the well cellar, and the well cellar is fully planked as a working surface. So that apparatus squeezes on the neck of the top of the well and will keep any blowout or unsafe condition happening while they're working on the wells due to the geological pressures that are deep under earth. On the right picture is the well cellar itself. As we finish each one of these wells, they're cut and capped. You can see the well pipe sticking up in the center bottom of the picture on the right is a cut well with a blank plate welded over the top. That's a completed well. B1, B2 project remains in progress. Right now we've shifted to doing exterior work along with the interior work that continues. The exterior work includes the restoration of the exterior brick. These are shots of the interior. Some foundation work is still going on in the B2 area. The micropile heads are on the right. Those are the 6 of the 148 micropiles that go 60 feet deep under the building and are poured in concrete and post-tensioned. On the left are the new shear walls that go from floor to ceiling. We have 14 of them within the building that create the new seismic structural shear to hold the building during an earthquake. More foundation pictures of the pile caps being encapsulated in concrete and tied to the existing building foundation. Roof demolition. Roof demolition progress has gone well. We started right about midway through the last week of school. So in a week and a half, Pro West crew, Jeff Rising's here tonight, has completed the demo on approximately 50 to 60% of the buildings on the B1, B2 project. This is a close-up picture of the restoration of the exterior brick, showing the routing of the mortar joints 3/4 inches deep. Those will be refloated with new mortar as a part of the restoration process. Also during spring break, we're branching outside of our fence compound. Picture on the right is underground utility tie-ins for water and sewer that tie the building B1, B2 complex into the existing utility infrastructure for occupancy. More pictures of the roof demolition progress over the last 2 weeks. Both roof demolition as well as brick restoration is going on this elevation. This is the south elevation of building B1. I'm on page 49 if you're following along. Progress photo of the B1 and courtyard area. This is the scaffolding and support structure built underneath the south bridge on page 51. Bridge demolition is an abatement and demolition is in progress. Right now when you walk out onto Heath, you see it encapsulated in this white canvas. This is a sealed negative air chamber, so the lead and abatement that's going on inside is not released into the atmosphere. It's done under full-time monitoring from our hazardous materials consultant. The entire bridge will be down. All of this equipment will be removed by the end of July. B3, B4. This is our next adventure. This is the project that we approved the PGMP for the demolition and abatement at one of our last board meetings. A couple of aerial views of that project. And in the past 2 weeks, we have some progress. Before I get to the progress, these photos show the teachers boxed up furniture, teaching materials and equipment from building B4. On the left happens to be the band uniforms and some other materials from the performing arts departments. On the right is a picture of what is called a podzilla. That apparatus picks up a pod level and moves it onto a flatbed trailer, and then they're transported across town. This is photos of the B3, B4 move in progress over the last couple of days. On the left, Dustin is moving into the Independent Learning Center, which was the first move that occurred on Monday morning. You're all in. On the right is the Theater 40 stage shop or scene shop. We're working with Theater 40 and relocating that to the modulars along the west property line up in the village. As I walked by today coming to the meeting, I see that the Theater 40 staff has filled up a 40-yard dumpster complete with thinning down on their material, which will make the move a little more efficient. Again, Theater 40 moving photos here of the inside of their storage area, and as on the right as products get moved out into the tunnel for relocation to the village.
And I saw that, if you go back, I saw that room on the left today, and it was about 3/4 completely empty.
Yeah.
So
you couldn't even walk in there 2 weeks ago.
Nope.
And it's a very, very large room, which will house Thomas's scene shop for the next 2.5 years. So when you let construction personnel go in, work in the performing arts department, you get a few interesting photos, and these two caught our eye, so I threw them in there. So Pro West crew found a frame on the right, on the left, and they found a statue on the right and decided to put it in a bush and thought it was a great photo op. Beginning of demolition of building B3, the large theater. On the left is the Bobcat in the lobby. The trophies are removed. They're being stored in the second floor of building H. You can see the plywood on the wall, which is the concealment of the mural. Phase 1 of the mural restoration has been complete. Emergency repairs and concealment, and will stay concealed in that tomb until the end of construction and until final restoration happens. On the right-hand picture is a little dark, but it's the beginning of clearing out the large theater. Progress in the large theater over the past week. A little more progress. And in 1 week, we move all the way to this.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Moving quite quickly. District-wide M&O activity, I just wanted to mention, working with Ken Haas's department. They're, in addition to the items that we're working together on in this, covered in this slideshow, they're working on a campus-wide, district-wide trip hazard abatement effort, district-wide HVAC, preventative maintenance, custodial training and certification, custodial department safety training, electrical light bulb replacements. I told Ken I was going to look up at that light bulb that's out when I did this because he's watching from home. He texted back and said, all of them are working except one. That's a positive comment. As well as deep cleaning throughout the district. Any questions on the presentation? I just kind of wanted to cover this before we got into some of the action items, but I'm free to answer any questions you have. Mr. Spitz, I don't know if you can hear me. A digital copy was emailed to you at the beginning of the meeting, and we have a hard copy here for you. I gave it to Pam K at the beginning of the meeting.
We'll start with Sean. Do you have any questions?
Just want to say, love all the work. It's amazing progress. So thank you so much.
Mr. Spitz, do you have any comments?
No.
This is so remarkable. I can't even tell you. It's having gone from the conversations about reconfiguration and modernization to the conversations about the bond measure and getting that passed to seeing the work happening right now. It is so incredibly gratifying and exciting to me. just excellent job. And we may have woken a sleeping giant, because since the other classes from El Rodeo found out that this class was able to go and sign the bell tower, I've had requests from all of the classes that weren't able to come back at some point in time and sign the bell tower. So thank you for facilitating that. It was wonderful.
We all have titles in Reconfiguration. Yours can be Captain Bell.
Mrs. Marcus?
It's just a monumental thing that's happening, and the only question I have, and that, I don't know if I saw, they change over some of the locker rooms and things like that at Beverly Vista, so is that something that's ongoing too? I mean, for the kids in physical education and the lavatories, I don't know that I saw the accommodations that were going to be made in those areas.
In the locker rooms at Beverly Vista for phase 1 for this summer, we're doing a refresh inside the locker rooms. It's paint and repairs to the existing locker configuration. We also have for phase 2 a schematic design to review with the facilities committee of increasing not only the capacity, but removing the chairs, the showers within those rooms, moving the lockers out to the outside perimeter and using it as a combination locker and teaching area due to the size of that space.
Okay.
So we'll be reviewing those design options over the next few weeks. That will be a DSA submit and approval permit project that would then be executed next summer.
Well, good luck with all of you're doing, and I look forward to some of the finished products in the fall.
Thank you.
This should be entitled "Your Tax Dollars at Work," because there is something going on at every site, whether reconfiguration or the bond program, and this is really encouraging to see the progress that we are finally making in this district in moving forward with this. And I hope everybody can take a gander at this online to really see. This is good information. Thank you, Jeff. I wanted to ask about Theater 40. There was a question about, well, let's come up with a couple of statements. Theater 40 is remaining in their theater. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so
just their scene shop moving.
Yeah, so just their, and it's actually not even their scene shop, it's their supplies, it's their materials.
Correct.
Are moving, because they actually build the sets on stage. So Theater 40, I'm happy to announce that through a lot of work with a lot of people in this room, board members, staff members, Dr. Breggy, worked out a wonderful arrangement with Theater 40 to keep the theater intact, keep their program intact, and share some of the space with our performing arts department as needed. So I want to thank them and thank our staff for working through that issue. That's a good step forward. I also understand that you said that there was space moving into the district office headquarters, the Independent Learning Center?
Independent Learning Center is on second floor, south end, in an underutilized space that we found for them.
So where was Theater 40 moving their space there?
They're going to start utilizing.
Oh, go ahead.
So they utilize it for an adult script read-through on Sunday and I believe Monday evening. And so we're offering them the space directly above the professional development space, ICB1. It's actually a much larger space. With
So they're staying in the building?
Correct.
Okay,
Just moving
terrific.
up one floor.
And then the board took action on possible tent, assuming conversations with the DSA. So I just wanted to make sure that we wrap that conversation up so the community knows what's going on in regards to that.
Those conversations are ongoing as we speak, as well as preliminary design for the tent. The tent will require a DSA permit, inclusive of ADA compliance and fire life safety. So that's one item that we can move to what we call a phase 2 reconfiguration improvement. This happens to be for the relocation for B3, B4, and we're going to keep you updated as we get more information and how quickly that can be pushed through DSA.
And is staff currently working on booking other venues for those size performances as necessary?
Yes, we're working on that. One of the challenges that we have is the school calendar has not been approved for, it's been approved for next year, the 1920 school year, but not beyond. So that's a little bit of a challenge for us as we're trying to pick some dates, but we are looking at what those potential dates are and trying to secure some of our partnerships outside the district.
Okay. Thank you. So the people know that we're actively solving the situation and we're
Yes.
not sitting on our hands.
Right.
I wanted everybody to know that. I think that was it as far as the updates that were requested by my colleagues. So I will now move forward to, unless you had anything else, we're going to move forward to the voting items?
No.
Okay. Okay, on to 16B.
So I make a motion to approve amendment number 1 to the agreement for professional services with K-12 school facilities.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you very much. Any questions on this, colleagues?
Mr. Spitz, do you have any questions?
No question.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Motion carries 4-0. Go ahead.
I will move to the approval of amendment number 2 to the agreement with Moss Adams LLP for professional services.
I'll second.
Any questions on this, colleagues?
No.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Thank you. Speeding along.
I'll make a motion for ratification of amendment number 3 to the agreement with Environmental Audit, Inc. for asbestos and lead abatement monitoring at Beverly Hills High School Buildings A and B.
I second the motion.
Okay, and there was clarification in the transmittal that it's technically not building A and B. That's how it's listed, but it's building.
B1, B2.
B1 and B2.
B1, B2.
Okay, that's just how.
B1 and B2?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, there's nothing happening with building A, lest anybody take that the wrong way. I just want to make that clear. Okay, if there are no questions on that, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Moving on to E.
I move for
I'll move
the
approval of amendment number 4, the agreement with the
to
Environmental
agreement with
Audit, Inc.
Environmental Audit Incorporation for asbestos and lead abatement monitoring at Beverly Hills High School Buildings
B1 and B2.
1 and 2.
Yeah.
B1 and B2 areas A and B
B.
to get technical, but it's B1 and B2.
Okay, B1 and B2.
This amendment, I
I
apologize.
just need a second, sorry.
I'll second.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Seconded. Go ahead, Mr. Pyman.
This amendment specifically targets the South Bridge that was not contracted for before with environmental audit to do the monitoring of material removal and air quality sampling during the asbestos abatement and lead abatement of the South Bridge.
Okay, any other questions on this item?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0.
I move approval of amendment number 5 to the agreement with Environmental Audit, Inc. for asbestos and lead abatement monitoring services for Beverly Hills High School Buildings B1 and B2, A and B.
This is
Second.
B1 and B2 again.
Mr. Spitz seconded, thank you. Yeah, it is. Mrs. Marcus. Okay, anything on this, Jeff? Or? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Item G.
I move for the approval of amendment number 1 to the agreement for professional services, geotechnical and geoenvironmental observations and testing with the Layton Consulting Incorporation.
I second.
Thank you very much. Questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay, Mr. Spitz, go ahead.
Probably for Jeff. I notice in environmental audit's proposal that a portion of their charge amounting to $680,000 is rated at $990 an hour. And I just want to say that when I grow up, I want to be a monitoring technician at $990 an hour. However, to get serious, it's pretty obviously a typo, because it says that there are 132 8-hour shifts, which amounts to 1,056 hours. And to come up with a total of $130,000, it would appear that the hourly rate is $123 an hour. So I just wanted to point that out, that there is a typo in there.
Thank you. I'll make sure that that typo is corrected prior to the execution of this agreement.
Thank you,
If it's
Mr.
not a
Spitz.
typo, then I think they're overcharging us in their hourly rate.
Well, it could be, actually, it should be an amendment to the motion.
Yeah.
Mel, I'm looking at the contract. What page are you referring to?
Pardon me?
What page are you referring to?
I think it's page 2 of their proposal.
Okay.
And it's, they listed 9 tasks, and this is task number 4.
I don't see it.
Sorry, folks, I want to make sure we
That
get
is
this right.
agenda item 16F. He's referring to the environmental audit contract.
Oh, so this is not the item on the floor?
Correct.
Well, we voted on that one already. Mel, they said the item you're referring to is from item 16F.
There's nothing wrong with the total amount of their proposal.
It's the...
Right, no, what I'm saying is, it was an item that we voted on 2 items ago. We did not make the correction when we voted on this. This applies to...
I'm going to vote for this.
What did he say?
He's going
I'm going to vote for this.
Okay, all right.
Did he say he's not going to vote for it? He did? Not?
No, he said he will.
No.
Okay, Jeff, on the other one, the environmental audit, will you take a look at that and find out if that does need to be corrected? Okay, thank you.
No problem.
All right, so we're voting on the item on the floor, which is G. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, thank you. Item carries 4-0. Moving on to H.
I move approval of amendment number 28 to the agreement with DLR Group for architectural services for the Beverly Hills High School modernization project.
I second the motion.
Thank you very much. Any questions on H?
No.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion opposed? Sorry, motion carries 4-0. I.
Move for approval of amendment number 29 to the agreement with the DLR Architects for architectural services for the Beverly Hills High School modernization project.
A second.
Thank you very much. Any questions on I?
Just a question, this isn't, for which one is this now in the modernization? Which specifically is that an amendment to which part of the project?
This is relating to DLR, our design consultant, our architect for the
No, I understand
entire...
that, but a specific area?
B3 and 4.
Yes, this is the perimeter site development for the B3, B4 complex.
Okay.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And J.
For the approval of amendment number 1 to the consultant services agreement with RMA Group for special inspection and/or testing services at Beverly Hills High School buildings B1 and B2.
I second.
Thank you very much. Any questions
I
on?
do have a comment on this.
Go ahead, Mr. Spitz.
Within the amendment proper, it refers to an Exhibit A, which is a scope of work. But in the amendment that I saw as an attachment to the agenda, there is no Exhibit A. And so I'm going to request that this approval be subject to Exhibit A being appended to amendment number 1.
Okay, Mr. Spitz, I was reviewing the original document to see if is that the Exhibit A that he's talking about, or is there a different
The proposal attachment to the agenda item, Exhibit A, refers to the June 4th, 2019 proposal by RMA, which is a two-page document, cover letter of scope, as well as a rate sheet and budget. That amendment, or that proposal dated June 4th from RMA, needs the header typed into it that says Exhibit A. So I ask that if we approve it, to clarify that the June 4th, 2019 RMA group proposal presented here is indeed Exhibit A. That's by reference.
Okay, so the exhibit is attached, it's just not labeled as such.
It needs a header type.
Okay,
yes.
terrific. So we'll make that correction. Thank you for bringing that up, Mr. Spitz. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Thank you very much, Mr. Pyle.
Thank you.
Thank you. I would say you have your work cut out for you, but you already do. So that'd be redundant. Okay, finally, moving on to board policy. Second reading we have. So I'll make a motion to approve the second reading of board policy 4112.8/4212.8/4312.8, employment of relatives. Thank you very much. Any conversation, discussion on this item?
No.
No.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries 4-0. And we had already had our special education discussion, so communications from board members. Anything else, colleagues?
Thank you all for an amazing year. Good luck to you, Thomas. Congrats to all the graduated seniors, and I hope everyone has a wonderful summer.
Thank you, Mr. Toomy. Best of luck to you, sir. Mr. Spitz?
I just thank you for making it possible for me to attend by phone.
Not a problem.
I just want to say thank you, Mr. Tooby. It's been an honor and a pleasure. Welcome, Mr. Recupero. We've got a lot of work ahead of us, so I hope you have a lot of energy.
Good luck at Berkeley, and we'll miss you. And in brevity is my favorite word. Have a wonderful week.
Thank you. Quickly, we'll be back on Thursday in the boardroom across the street for the final approvals on the budgets and LCAPs. I believe that's a morning meeting, 9 o'clock. Our next regular scheduled board meeting is not until July 16th, and some of that, it's kind of like the Avengers, they're not as exciting. But if you can't get enough of me, I will be at the Beverly Canyon Gardens on June 27th, performing with the group after a year hiatus. I will be back out behind my drum set. So if you just need a fill of Noah playing a drum fill, June 27th at 6 o'clock p.m. Beverly Gardens. Have a wonderful, wonderful week and summer until we see you again. Meeting is adjourned.